What's up, everybody?
That's when I decided to make myself a cup of tea.
Tea.
Coffee instead. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I did a tea reduction of cold water.
Oh, wow. Very progressive of you.
Minus the tea, minus the heat.
Welcome, everybody, to our ZBO Q&A. Hi. It's going to be
Bye.
real kind of stupid and chill and relaxed today. And we're just going to chat and talk with you people and get some questions answered. And I'll dodge a ton of questions. It'll be great.
Perfect.
It'll be great. Welcome to the Q&A wrap up. I'll put a little message up just for anybody that decides to join us today as we continue on. Jay is going to be a bit late. He's going to be a bit late, but he will be joining us. Unfortunately, Colo couldn't make it today. I did ask. Colo's not going to be able to join us today, unfortunately.
I'm happy about that, but
yeah,
I had some questions, but
it's
okay.
The really interesting part there, Brad, is that she cited you as the reason that she didn't want to be here today. So
yeah. Specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to frame
Brad's gonna be there?
I should just put the thing on it, shouldn't I? I should just warn it. I should just warn the thing. That horrible itchy wig.
it will have to return to your pubic region.
I'm gonna
Hey,
be
it's here.
throwing it into the garbage.
I actually bought a wig recently. I hate them because they're itchy. I'll agree, but I bought one recently for Stu.
Season 2
And
It
confirmed.
drives me nuts.
You're
I
not
don't know
wearing
how
it.
I'm not wearing it. It is so itchy. Like it
You're not
irritates the
wearing
hell
it.
out of my face.
Yeah, I
Imagine
kind of made
doing
a,
that for all year, because that's what Brad was
know.
doing.
Yeah.
Hats off. I didn't know it was that itchy.
It kind of solidified the fact that I will almost never wear another wig on a show again.
Unless
It
it's
was
for
horrible.
charity.
I would do it, obviously, yeah, but like for a whole year-long show, that if you
Yeah.
go back and probably if you created some sort of Kujio-powered bot that could go back and search all the VODs for me doing this, it probably looks like I have like gross itchy ears and I'm constantly just shoving my finger into my gross waxy hot ears, but I'm not. I'm endlessly removing the little hairs from the wig that are tickling the tops of my ears all the time. I'm just pushing them out and stuff.
We
And I was
need a
always really
supercut
conscious
now.
of it. Yeah, I bet
We need a
there's tons
supercut.
of it in the in the VODs and stuff. But I was always like super conscious of it the entire time. I was like, man, they probably think I'm like disgusting, just like, oh, yeah,
No,
tasty earwax and
that
touching
long
all my
before the
stuff.
show.
Fingers in his ears the whole time. What a weirdo.
Mm.
Long before
Yeah.
the show.
Super
Um,
just itchy wig. I hated it.
So if we're just gonna be kind of shooting the shit here today. We're gonna be
Yes.
we're just gonna be chatting it up. If you chat people have any questions that you'd like us to answer, or for me to look at and then say no, I'm not gonna answer that. You can do exclamation point Q in the chat because Kujio was kind enough to throw up a quick bot for us. And we've got a like little program that can see the questions in an easy way. So yeah, that's just exclamation point Q and then whatever question you want to ask in the chat. There's Noodle being an all-star for showing us.
There
an
is no
example.
guarantee we will answer your question,
Correct.
Yeah.
but then there is a chance that we will, because everyone always goes crazy
Correct.
whenever you do these things. We did one for Darkfire the same way, one of these shows at some point the same way. And the next day someone was like, you didn't answer my question. And I was like, what the fuck? Noodle? You're free. Leave me alone.
So,
But it does save all of them. So some of us, at least for Darkfire, we went into the Discord to try to answer them.
I put a PDF out with the ones that were
Yeah.
important that we didn't really feel like we had time to answer on the thing. And we answered a few for that on there. But Wax never going to do that, so I'm not going to offer it for you. Look at him. Look. We barely got him here to do this.
The show is fine. If you didn't realize everything I was trying to do, that's on you. No, I don't. It is what it is. Don't worry about it. I guess we can start off with you guys. Let's start off with you guys if you have any questions that you want to ask, and then we can sort of jump into the audience questions. How's that sound?
Yeah, I have this itching, and I'm curious as to if you think. No, I do have a serious question. If you don't mind me jumping straight in with it.
Yeah, go for it.
It's for you, actually.
Okay.
Why do you think that wood has a gravitational pull?
Well,
Why
Brad.
do you think that?
Well, Brad, if you had actually listened to the words that came out of my mouth, I said that the chairs were bolted down.
Oh
You
dear, oh
fucking
dear.
jerk.
So good. So good.
Any other questions? Any other?
Oh,
questions?
yay, they're working. Okay.
Yeah, they're working.
Oh, sweet.
They're working. They're
Nice.
popping. They're popping in there. Anybody else from our group here? Pumpkinberry's like.
I don't have any
I
Yeah.
did. I asked everybody a question, but we can skip mine. I
You're
just
on the
wasn't-
show, PB. You don't need to type
I was
it
just
in the
testing
chat.
this.
You're here.
Okay. Right. I just want to make
Ask
sure.
your question.
Okay. I do have a question.
for it.
Well, it's one for each of you. Wyatt, what was Wyatt's favorite kind of anime? Did you ever think of that and have that ready in case somebody asked you, or was it always improv?
No, I thought I would improv all of it. I assume that he likes any. He totally just enjoys like shonen bullshit, right? Where the main boy hero with green hair is just absurdly overpowered and always, deep down he's a good guy. I don't think he probably. I can't imagine that he has favorites or any. I don't think he's even that much of a real like otaku. I don't think he's like the type that would collect like models like Effie.
Yeah.
I think it's his preferred kind of escape. And obviously he was a long distance truck driver basically. So I just thought at first I
lot
just
of
thought,
time.
it'd be cool if he just was into anime since this is an anime. So yeah, I didn't actually think I would need to rely on it too much, honestly. I didn't think it was going to be a character trait, you know? I just thought it would be something that just like a throwaway thing that he was into. But yeah, I just assumed he had a like those truckers. I don't know any truckers in real life, but from what I understand, they have like crazy entertainment systems because they sit in that cab for ever, days, weeks, driving long distance across the world. So imagine that on a space level. I just imagined he had like a wicked setup with some sort of screen, and because the ship can do everything for him.
Yeah.
So he could probably really kick back and just watch Netflix the whole time. So I imagine he would just binge anime because there's so much of it. So I never really thought that he had like a favorite or he was like obsessed in the way that like someone would be like, oh, I need to get a Goku figure, or whatever. That was his preferred media to watch.
We actually have a small group of truckers that watch Table Story. So shout out to you all because I've seen your comments on YouTube and in the Discord, and I know you're out there and you binge our shit, and I love
yeah.
it. So shout out to you.
Yeah, leave me some comments because the season 2 that we're doing is a prequel, so I need to know.
Prequel.
Prequel. Okay, so I had a question for Stu. How did Stu's rivalry begin?
I think it
What-
started out in like one of those cliche like animes. Stu always won, like, how Gary Oak and Ash started their rivalry. Like he'd look over and Blanson would have so much more than what Stu had, and Stu would always be jealous, like, oh, I'll get you, Blanson. Like he would actually have the sports car and like all the cheerleaders and fangirls like parading around him. I feel like that was motivation for like Stu at first, like be better than Blanson. Then he found like his own.
Pure jealousy.
Yeah, it was just sheer jealousy. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll show him. He had like a moderate interest in acting, but when he saw Blanson being so successful at it, he was like, oh, I can do better than that.
Yeah, it was more competition than it was
Yeah.
anything else.
And I noticed that in the beginning, at least, he was sort of portrayed as maybe potentially being a nice guy to you, and you just hated him anyway, until, of course, the episode in which we realized he was an asshole. But did you always sort of kind of see it that way, that the relationship was sort of ambiguous, like maybe he is trying to help you out and hook you up with an agent, or was he always kind of a dick to Stu?
I feel that Blanson has always been a dick to Stu, but like that, always, you know, putting that face on to like, oh no, I'm actually very nice and helpful, but like deep down is like, oh, I know I'm already better than this guy.
Yeah,
That's the way I
I'm just
tried to
toying
play
around with
him.
Yeah.
I tried to play him so hard, like it's the nice people that can basically tell you to go fuck yourself without telling you to go fuck yourself that are the worst, right? Like that horrific condescending tone that you can give someone that's telling them, I fucking hate you. You know, like
Blanson was made perfectly. Like, honestly, you did a fantastic job because I really wanted everyone to like him, and just Stu hates his guts because he knows what kind of snake he is. It was done so well.
I hated him in character, at least. I had your back somewhat at that thing, because I was like, authority problem kind of translates pretty well to hating these kind of dickish, rich kind of Hollywood types, and because I already knew you, and when we went to the Blantz over dinner, I was like, I feel like I need to be his like backup here, and I was playing Wyatt as so like full of himself, because we all had these like superpowers. So Wyatt in his head at that point was like, I am Gohan, you know, like he like fuck yeah, dude. So I was like, let's kill him, you know? Stuff like that.
Take him out. That was fun too, because I think like during that episode I got to play Effie as trying to be the wingman sort of in a weird way, and it was
we were trying to get her
fun.
drunk and stuff.
Yeah,
it was great.
She was just like, Stu's the best, and didn't you know this, and he's done that, and just failing miserably at it. It was really good. Fun. Okay, so I had a question for you, Myth, about creating Luca. He ended up being like such a huge father figure. Is that something that you had intended during character creation, or was that something that happened organically during play?
I think that's something I wanted to have. So the creation of Luca, because I don't watch a lot of anime and I'm not a huge fan of anime, so it was like me trying to find the right archetype that would fit in the anime tropes. So I was trying to figure out how I would do this, what we would need as like the archetypes that are being filled by these characters and by our party. And I was like, well, what's a character that I haven't played before, and what's a gameplay mechanic that I could try to use? And I was like, you know what, grappling could be really cool. So I built the mech first. I wanted to be a pilot that was a grappler, and then not knowing the system very well, and also my first table story show, I'm super shy, and so the character became very quiet. And then I think through, of course, playing and getting used to everybody and getting used to the show and getting used to the game mechanics and everything like that, we started to see more of Luca. And it really kind of worked out and organically created him in the way that I kind of always wanted him to be. I wanted him to be the father figure. I wanted him to be a lost prisoner. There was something more than just him being a prisoner. It's kind of where I've always kind of went with him. I wanted this big bulky guy who just wanted to fight stuff, and he wanted to live fast and loose and see, and if he always wanted to have the gladiatorial death. He always wanted to die in battle. And that's always kind of like, and that was sort of me being like, I don't know the system. I don't know if I'm going to like this character. I don't know if I'm going to like this role. I'll just make this character just rush headlong into battle, and that's who he'll be. But as we played more, we started to find out more about his character, and I started to develop, and he started to develop more of and show his true colors, and his backstory started to get ironed out into his being. So it was kind of like he always had, like, the backstory that we've had has always been there, with him being the prisoner on Scorpa, losing some of his family, losing his wife, not ever seeing his wife again because of the loss that he had. So he's just constantly going from job to job, or being broken out from prison to then work and to continue fighting. And him just being this lost puppy in a way of trying to find out where he stands, but still finding those he can trust and love on the way. It's always kind of been the theme for him, is that he always wants to make sure that the group he's with is his family, even if it was on Scorpa, if it was his family before, if it was the jobs before his family, or if it was the ZBO crew. It's kind of always how it's been. And then of course, with how everything went with him, it ended up being really great. So
when you're creating, sorry, did I just, Brad, were you saying something? Did I just speak over something?
No, but I'll say something since you refused to start a sentence. It was pretty crazy how it worked out poetically that you lost a child and we all gained like a father figure.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the type of thing
I was
that
very curious about that.
Yeah.
If you could write a whole film if you just wrote down that as a starting point for a skilled writer, and just be like, here is a group of lost individuals, and one of them is specifically has lost a child and a family, and then becomes a very central driving force to bring. Because in losing Luca, it was one of the main things that really brought us together. And a lot of the early themes, the first few episodes of us doing the training and just not being a team, even when we kind of tried, we still weren't a great team. I think the Luca death kind of solidified us as a team. It was like something that we all went through. That and the Blansover, they were equally as traumatic.
Yeah, and one right after another too was definitely a tempering experience. But yeah, that's kind of also where I wanted to go with it. I wanted to have this third act, like I wanted to have him go at some point, but I didn't know how or when, because I knew there was other things. Like I started to look at the Iskander, and I was like, that's a really cool mech. How could I get that to work? Would Luca pilot an Iskander? And I was like, no, probably not. But I also do want to try that. So I was kind of already like on the horizon of maybe this chapter will close at some point soon. But yeah, I've kind of always like, he's always been about second chances, and even in the story, there's always been about second chances with him. And like he in his eyes, he failed once as a father, and then when he came back, or he failed once also as a civilian, and he went to prison for it, and then he was washed away from that to try again with now this new experiment and new technologies. And then he tried again. Of course, in that he saw the second chance for him to try to have a family again. And then even more later on through the farther episodes, you start to see a second and a third chance. And it's all about him having more chances, which was really cool. And I thought that was really cool how that happened. That was never planned, but that was really awesome.
It was a really insightful comment, Brad. I'm always very impressed. This is a heartfelt compliment. You're extremely insightful when it comes to analyzing character motivations. I feel like you're one of the best people I've ever seen when it comes to just analyzing everybody's little thought processes. And that was a good find. I didn't even really think about that, to be honest with you.
Well, thanks for the compliment.
Feels weird. I feel like dirty.
I'm super into it. Into being complimented. I'm super into like character motivation stuff when I watch TV shows and movies and things like that. So I don't know. I guess it just bleeds through a lot of the time. I don't think I don't know if I even understand it. I've never taken like a writing class. I don't really understand from a very technical level the actual writing process. I know a bit about production and stuff, but I'm always super interested in character motivation and character arcs and depth and stuff. So I can't help but notice it and pick up on it. And I love it when we end shows and you because we don't write this out. That's the thing that I find so interesting, is how we don't write any of these character arcs out. And you can have in your head some idea of what you might want to do with characters and what Whack might want to do with the show and stuff like that. But when you get to the end of it and you look at how the odds that we actually got this kind of actual real character arc for Luca that impacted all of our characters, is crazy. It legit looks like the type of thing that you could write into its own movie, or into a really interesting character in a movie or a show or something. So when I see that happen, I don't know, my like spidey sense, character motivation sense starts going on. Like, it's just so cool. Yeah, I thought about it a bit when Luca died. I remember thinking like, oh, I wonder if it was a little while afterwards, because the whole the shock of Luca dying was pretty heavy, especially in the first couple of weeks. But a little while afterwards, because I wasn't even sure if you were dead at first. Yeah, once we all started,
I was gone for a bit.
Right. Yeah. Once we all sort of knew what was going on, I remember thinking like, oh, if we all get our memories back and stuff, how is that going to affect us as a team? And it had such a massive impact on my character and everyone's character that I remember thinking then, like, it's kind of interesting. It might have been around when we did Scorper, actually. I remember thinking like, oh, it's interesting how we had Luca as this kind of father figure, and how weird it will be to lose that for the team. And then that was when I went, wow, it's weird actually that we lose this father figure who became our father figure, and he was a person who lost a kid kind of thing. I remember thinking it a lot back then. I love that stuff.
Situation as well, because I think nobody really knew what had happened and if Myth was going to come back as Luca, except I think was I the only one that knew because of Effie? Like, Effie either saw it or not, so I had to straight up say to Whack, like, this is what Effie would have done if this had happened, and this is what she would have done. And then he told me, well, this is what happened with Effie, and I was like, fucking Luca,
that whole episode and the one afterwards and the time in there was crazy, because we all didn't know what was going on. Some of us knew more than others. During the events of everything happening real time, everyone's messaging Whack and Whack's messaging us. Everyone has to know their own individual information sometimes. And
I think it was just like a situation that kind of escalated more than any of us, I think, expected. But then it was about character commitment in that moment. Like, we can't just skip past this. We have to, if this is what's going to happen, it's what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. It felt like there were like two integral character building points in the show. I think the first one was when we first got to the Karakan baronies and we were in that room together.
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time. And we had to keep interacting with the I can't remember her name. Estefana.
Yeah.
We had to keep speaking with her, and we had to keep, like, everyone was a little on edge, and we were still doing the like thing where we weren't fully trusting of each other. Then we had all these other people. We only had each other, and we also didn't really, I don't think anyone really had a very fleshed out character then, because it's quite hard to even have it at that point. We were still quite early on, and we'd only done the training. We were still learning Lancer, and it was like, and I feel like by the time we came out of that and went and got onto Tivius's ship, our characters felt like they had a little more depth to them for the first time as an overall thing. Like, we knew our characters going in. We learned how to play them up to that point, and then they grew for the first time. Yeah. And then obviously Luca's death, and how we all had to figure out how our characters would interact with that and interface with it and react to it, was obviously the second. But I feel like that little arc there where we were all kind of trapped in a room, and then like Luca came in and was like, I told them everything, and everyone was like killing me, like they were like punching me in the head because I was like, I told them like a bit just because I needed to get Tivius here, but my character was holding it all back because he didn't want to admit that the reason he did it was to save Heath. He didn't want to give that, so everyone was like, you fucking betraying little shit, and then Luca walked in like, oh, hello everyone. Everyone was like, I love you, Luca, and he was like, I told them everything, and they were like, oh,
thank you, I'm hungry. Yeah, exactly.
It was
Luca.
It was a very interesting point, but I remember thinking for me, I had to think like that as well. At least in that moment, everyone had cards for the first time and had to figure out what they wanted to play and what they wanted to show with each other, with Stefania and that kind of thing.
There was
nice.
there was I mean, that was the plan for that character arc. It was the whole reason that I did it was I wanted you to have like character. There was like forced character building almost. To be fair, I don't really plan out like a story arc in its entirety. Like, I just put down some basic ideas,
bullet points
for
and
things.
A start.
Yeah, it's all of my notes for everything are just like bullet points. I never try and just like.
And they're like Sorry, my brain is not working today. They're like emotion points, right? They're like not specific scenes or scenarios. They're like, this would be a cool thing to explore with a group. So
Yeah.
not necessarily setting. So what I'm trying to say is like, you don't think of it like, oh, there's a cool castle scene, or do you?
I guess sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes. Yeah, there's a few scenes that I'm just like, oh, that'd be cool. And I'll like write it down. I never try and ham fist a thing in though. Like if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't try to restrict myself really when it comes to the process of doing any of the prep. I think for me, I work well when I improv a lot.
Right.
So I put down some basic ideas and I'll look at them for an episode and I just go with that. And I feel like that's when the best episodes happen, at least on my end. So I just kind of go with that. Let's do some audience questions.
Thank you for trusting us with stitching the story along with you, because that's really.
I think it's important. It's not
same.
really necessarily a matter of trust for me. I think it's the way that I get everyone invested, really. It sort of like becomes, it sort of like feels like trust as time goes on. But it's really just I wouldn't bring you on the show if I didn't think that you would do a good job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've already, that part is already factored in.
Right.
And it's just, it gets everybody more invested in the story when you're contributing a lot. You know, I want to know why you think certain things. I want to know why your characters do the things that they do. It really helps. But let's jump into some audience questions, because I don't know how late we're going to go today. So I do want to get to some audience stuff. Banjo Bunny asks, Whack, why do you like the idea of people's belief creating something supernatural? Oh, you clever person. That is a running theme through a lot of the shows that I do. You spotted that, eh? I've always been interested in that concept. It's something that's interested me since I was a kid. It's one of those things where when you imagine yourself with superpowers, that was always the superpower that I was interested in. You know, actually like changing reality based on, you know, thoughts. I always thought that was cool. I think it was what the X-Men character was it? In the old school X-Men cartoon, I think
Archangel.
it was Professor X's son, not Legion.
Oh,
was it Protheus? Is that his name? Protheus?
Yeah, Proteus or something.
Proteus. He could change.
Proteus.
Yeah, he could like change reality. I was like, that's the power I want. I was like, that's the coolest thing. He can just change the stone. It's just changed now. That's awesome. So I guess I've just always been interested in it. They like reinforced it in the Matrix and a lot of other things. So I think it's just always in my head. Like I'm always thinking about it in some way. It's one of those little. I feel like everybody latches onto something with art or stories or whatever. There's always like a maybe an unintentional like subconscious theme that's going on in the background for that creative process. And
why does that relate to this? Because I have a question about
I think it's in regards to the firmament.
Yeah, the firmament and the Ownic. What the fuck is it?
So,
and did you warp it from the lore as well? Because I twist a lot of like existing lore to match my campaign or setting sometimes. So I wondered whether you did that as well with this.
So yes and no. There's a ton of Lancer lore. There's so much. And I have a horrible memory just in general. And sadly, I do have the best memory apparently of the Table Story group, which is shocking to me because mine is so bad. But there's a lot of Lancer lore, and it's just kind of tough sometimes to keep track of everything. But the way that they describe the firmament in general in the actual lore, it's the domain of Metot Aun, a place inaccessible to all but those Metot themselves has deemed worthy. A place of power, the firmament exists in one capacity as a metaphysical thing, and in a different capacity as something that is demonstrably real and capable of affecting the physical world. So it's a kind of amorphous thing in general, and it's something that the Ionic people used to do a lot of the things that we did. So I feel like I just kind of expanded on it a little bit, and I still tried to stay true to the lore. As best as I could. It's honestly really difficult sort of keeping track of everything in here. Number one, because it's very scientific and they use a lot of big words. That shit's hard to remember. And number two, there's a lot of it. They have a ton of lore for this game. I don't know if you have looked in the books and the expansions that have been released. I mean, there's an Ionic Ascendancy field guide that is 71 pages, plus the book itself, which is 500-something pages, I think, the actual rule book. And there's tons of other ones. Like, they've got them for the Karakin trade baronies. They've got them for Harrison Armory. There's a ton of stuff. There's so much lore. So I kind of took bits and pieces here and there from what I could. I definitely can't remember everything, but I did the best I could.
It seemed pretty real. It seemed pretty immersive in terms of
So
saying.
cool though. Like the Ionic people originally came from Cradle. Like I'd love to understand how they ended up on like the outskirt of space, if
So-
Cradle is where their homeworld is.
Well, yeah, it was.
Are they the original?
They're
us?
they're original. Yeah, they're basically
Yeah.
us.
Oh wow.
And the and this is, by the way, this is in the core rule book. There's a whole lore section at the end of the book. Did we get a J?
We did.
We got a J.
Oh, hey.
Wow, time to
Hello.
end the stream. We can't
This
get
is
any
fun.
more questions in.
Oh my
What a
god.
terrible shame. No
We
more
should-
questions.
We should talk about
There's
how
the end.
the questions Whack asked us as
Burned it
players at the
now.
beginning have basically set up the whole campaign and how different that could have been had we picked a different question.
Oh,
Right, 'cause he
I
asked
remember
us,
one.
I
like-
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whack, do you happen to
Nobody's
have
doing it.
those handy, what you asked us?
I
I can try to scroll up.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you? Wonderful.
Wow, you're way better than I am.
Because I copied and pasted it so I can do it later and steal the idea. So he asked us 20 questions. Do you want me to ask all? Do you want me to recite
This
all
Well,
of
I
them?
think,
this was
I think we
offline,
narrowed
by
it
the
down,
way.
right? Yeah.
This was before even character creation. This
Yeah.
was the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
thing.
But it's
This
in
was
the
like-
book.
It
I'm
is in
pretty
the
sure.
book.
Yeah.
Oh, it is in the book? Oh,
yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, it's in the book.
Nice.
These
in the
are
book, there you go.
possible. They're campaign ideas, basically. They're
Yeah.
campaign
Yeah.
ideas. And I said, okay, well, if it's in the book, we might as well use it.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can read them off. I mean,
Right. So they are an infamous private military corporation, glory-seeking warriors, Union regulars, career soldiers, Union auxiliaries, recruited from a local world, elites of a planetary defense force, enforcers of law, criminals, thieves, swindlers, acolytes of an ancient martial order, devotees of a higher power, guardians of an ancient royal lineage, which sounds cool, corporate security, asset protection, explorers of the unknown, pirate scum, defenders of the homeland, the forefront of a rebellion, saviors of the weak and helpless, hungry travelers in it for the money, inventors, engineers, and test subjects, inheritors of a famous legacy, and the last one is the only ones who could stop what's next.
so
So
I asked
I
them.
found the post, by the way.
Cool.
Yeah, but
I remember
where
what
we
I
all voted.
asked. And it was everybody choose 3.
Yep.
And I just gave it a number thing, where I said, okay, number 1, number 2, and number 3, and 2 of them ended up being very close, which were the test subjects and the what was the other one?
The
18 and
stopping-
20. So inventors, engineers, and test subjects, and the only ones who can stop what's coming.
Right.
Those are the 2 that we all unanimously picked that one. Brad liked 3, which was Union regulars or career soldiers.
I just watched that. What's it called? Whack. The really cool, the animated '95 Gundam.
Animated 95 Gundam? What, the Gundam 0080?
Yeah. No.
War in the Pocket?
No. The one that came after War in the Pocket. It came out in 95, but I can't remember what the hell it's called because my brain is also dead today.
Is it the 8th MS Squad?
The 8th MS
Yeah.
Squad 1, where it's just a bunch of like normal people with the worst. They're not even Gundams. They're barely even like, they're just normal mechs, you know? They're not like the big crazy new type people flying around being awesome. And I had literally finished that, and then those questions came up. I was like, that one. I picked that one, 8th MS team, and then we didn't do it. But then I did get to do it in the end.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Good.
My original intent with the show, before I decided to ask you these questions, were because I talked with a few people just trying to like come up with the idea before we did the show, and I was waffling on things because I really like the Gundam Universal timeline. That's my favorite one, and I like the setting. I like the way that they handle things. Everything's really intense. Everything matters, and no one's really bad. You know what I mean? Like they all have their own reasons for doing everything, and they just kind of switch POVs like throughout the entire series, which I thought is just friggin' really awesome. Like, how many shows do you know that just switch the POV? Like, they're not really the bad guy. Neither are we. We just want different things, and we have our reasons for why we're doing these things. They don't do that a lot on TV, and the whole concept was really interesting. So I wanted to do. I was really interested in doing a Gundam-like story. I wanted to do something like with Mercenaries originally when I first thought up the show.
Season 2.
Then I was like, you know what? I don't. You had started Nocturne already at that point, and one of the things that PB does so well is involve everyone and ask people lots of questions and get people really invested in the story and their characters. I think she's the best one on Table Story in regards to doing that. So I tried to steal that. I was like, I need to copy what she's doing because she does that better than me. I said, you know what?
That's what GMing is.
Yeah, that's what GMing is. So I just said, you know what? I'm gonna just see what they want to do, and let's just do that. And I'll write down some cool stuff that I want to put in, but let's be interested in their stories. Their stories are the interesting things here. So yeah. Jay asks, why is Wyatt always late?
Oh, ironic. Welcome, Jay. Showed up. Eventually.
I can ask it in person now. Why is Wyatt always late?
I don't think he was ever late, honestly. I think that name was completely ironic.
He arrives precisely when he means to.
He arrives precisely. I think if anything, he was always early. Because he goes fast, right? He was like, gotta go fast. That was like my first thing on my sheet, I think, originally, was that I had a
we talked about your character. You're like, I just want to go fast.
I was like, I just want to be the like little fast boy. He's called Boomslang, which is, it sounds like a Sonic Boom type thing, but it's also a green snake. So it was like green, fast, probably uses a big, laser sword type thing, because I didn't know how to play Lancer at the time, didn't know what was available to me. That was all I did. I really did not put a lot of effort into Wyatt beyond his name. At first. By the end of it, I was like, I've never put more effort into a character than this. But at the beginning, I was like, I just want to be the fast one. Because he was like, it's an anime. I was like, okay, I'll be the Sundari green head.
He's zipping around with your sword.
I just wanted to be the
closing it.
Yeah.
Also, all your enemies.
I think I had just watched My Hero Academia, and that Bakugo is in it, who just runs in and attacks people. He's that character, Vegeta. Just heedlessly believes he can just take everything on himself and deal with it. I'll do it myself kind of situation, and kind of a little hot-headed. So I kind of went with that trope you know, from an anime, because that's how it was presented to us, was like be an anime character. So I was like, okay, well, which of these? There's like 8 types of anime characters that you can be. That's it. Like Tsundere or whatever they are. The other one, they were all the Dares. So I just picked one. That was the one I went with. By the end, I was suffering a horrible mental health issue.
Nurek asks, if the most recent iteration of your character saw themselves in the beginning, what would they say or advise them on doing?
Oh, wow.
Don't go to Mars.
Ouch.
They better go back.
Heath would be very happy. He'd just go, yeah, cool, carry on being an asshole. I mean, you cared about these people a little bit too much. Let's dial that back a little bit. That's pretty much it.
Anybody else?
I think Stu would just be very, like, he would give caution to trusting Blanson. He would absolutely want to go to Mars, but be like, Blanson is still the same old Blanson. But I really can't think of anything else that Stu would be telling other Stu.
In about 6 months, don't point at anything you don't want dead.
Yeah. Whatever you do, don't do this at somebody you care for.
And you
no
end up
finger
shooting
guns.
yourself. Don't finger.
Yeah, you kill past you.
Yeah, kill past you with your finger gun.
Don't do this.
Oh, fuck!
It'll become like a
Such
paradox.
Yeah, Stu thing to do.
That's
Then old Stu ends up. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
We're doing 2 seasons and a movie, right? So that's the movie. It's like Stu goes back and creates this complete alternate timeline, and we have to fix it.
Looper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all we have to do to get season 2 of ZBO is $15,000 on the Kickstarter. That's all.
$1,000 on the
That's
Kickstarter.
doable. Mr. Beast, where you at?
And are you interested in Lancer or Gundam?
I think he follows me on Twitter. I'll DM him.
Mao Hayato asks, was it ever a possibility that the team would be able to pilot Blue Orion? Absolutely. It was definitely a possibility. That's one. That's a question I'll be happy to answer. It was definitely a possibility.
Would we have been trapped?
Would you have been trapped?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I had come up with many possibilities for the ending situation. And they took the most direct route, which was also the most expected. I wasn't surprised, but I had other things that were planned. You could have piloted the Blue Orion, definitely. There was an ultra happy ending that could have happened. You got
Ultra happy?
Yeah.
Wait, what? How ultra happy?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I don't know if I want to share that one.
You're right. It could be the ending of season 2.
I don't know if I want to share that one. I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
no, okay, I'll ask you later. And you might not even tell me, but I can't ask that.
FitzChiv29 asks, was Effie really crazy?
Oh, I hadn't planned her that way, no, but yes, I guess she was in the end. Like it did turn out that she had multiple personalities that were kind of squirreled away, which I actually think was very interesting because she ended up kind of duplicating that again with Gabriella. So who I had originally intended Gabriella was not, based on the discussion about what happened to Effie after Luca died. But it turned out that Heath was given a similar situation, but Heath's situation was different. And we discovered that during play a little bit, which I don't think really came out too much, but I don't know if Jay wants to talk about that or not.
Yeah, I won't jump into a conversation that was further down the list, but someone had asked about that kind of split personality thing. And I think the way I was playing it and PB was playing it was, I think, 2 different things that actually happened to us. And it, like you say, it came out a little bit, but like Michael Michael didn't exist in any way, shape, or form. He was completely like a personality construct that the UND had completely made up and put into Heath. Like, he doesn't exist anywhere. He's not a real person. He's not a memory. They just literally made him up and put him on top of Heath for now. Yeah. Whereas I think obviously with PB it was slightly differently, wasn't it? Because it was actually multiple people that did exist.
Yeah, well, at least that's how I was playing it, but who knows what they did. You know, that's what I was sort of told, so I role played that, but it could be that I was told that because Effie has the split personality issue, so that's why I maybe who knows?
I'll talk about it a little bit. I felt like you were focusing on the memories that Effie was having a lot. And that's kind of the reason why I took that direction, was because it felt like you were really concerned with the memories and things that were happening with Effie and Gabriella, and I just, it felt right. It kind of made sense. And when I was coming up with everybody's like firmament powers, I was like, okay, what makes the most sense with each character?
That's why you gave her the memory thing.
I gave you, sense. You were the first one that I did. It was just so readily apparent. And then actually Stu was number 2. I was like, Stu would have the flashiest thing possible.
Yeah.
And it was finger gun. I was like, yeah, fucking finger guns. The hard light is the thing with the firmament, and the Haunic does. Absolutely. Finger guns. I was like, that is flashy as fuck. And then I thought up Wyatt was pretty obvious too. It sort of piggybacked off of the way that the mech was going. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was coming up with for that. It just felt like it made sense. Fist of the Walrus asks, what would Wyatt be doing as an alternative job if being a delivery boy wasn't an option?
Good question.
I don't know, man. I mean, the only reason really that he was a delivery guy was because I wanted him to fit somewhat into the Starship pilot background, which is what I had chosen or had come up with. So I wanted him to have some kind of idea when he was just thrown into a mech. I didn't want him to be just completely like
what
his depth.
Yeah.
I want him to have some confidence so that he could play into that Sundari character, you know, so that he could be like, I'm confident in doing this because I've been driving a truck, you know, or whatever. So, which worked, by the way, at the beginning when everyone was like, oh, he can do it because he's a Starship pilot, right? And he was like, yeah, I can do it. But it was like someone who can drive a car, can't fly a plane, you know, but still. So that was the original reasoning behind it. Then when I was thinking about it, I was like, I kind of want him to just have a really pretty like normal job, really just pretty uninteresting. Sorry, delivery drivers. I can't imagine it's the worst job ever or anything like that, but nothing like flashy. So I want him to do that. And when I wrote his backstory, I said that he's from just this really average Earth-like planet that's probably really overcrowded. And he took a job at 16 packing boxes at the local StarX plant. And then eventually you get one of those jobs where you're on the lowest rung, and then maybe they let you do a different thing in and around that place. And then eventually they give you a forklift truck license, right? And then they give you a truck, and then that's how you progress through those things. I know that because my cousin does that, just took that entire route, and now he's like a manager there at this firm somewhere. And that's just that kind of route through that kind of a business, which I imagine Wyatt was on the ladder for. So I don't know what he would have done if he wasn't driving a delivery boy truck, but it'd probably be just packing boxes or working an office job somewhere. I imagine just really kind of, he didn't really have any aspirations, right? He wasn't excited or passionate about career choices or anything because Tivius was the all-star kid, you know? So I feel like it kind of dulled that need or that want to be better, because Tivius was always going to be the best star kid, so he didn't need to do that. So Wyatt was just happy to just drive his truck and watch anime. I think he would have just done the same thing, but he would have just gone to work, worked the office job, gone home, watched anime. You know, same thing, same job. Long answer for unnecessary answer.
Thank you, Brad. Commander Strax asks, what happened to the NPC fire group from the last episode? Did they die? How? I'm not answering that question.
They did not die, by the way. In my version of events.
They existed.
I'm not answering that question. Get wrecked, nerd. Jay Britton asks, do you boil or microwave your water?
Boil.
Keurig.
Keurig is the only option.
I don't know what Keurig does, but I Keurig it.
Freebase mine. Thank you.
Freebase it in a spoon.
I don't think that
Teaspoon at a time.
I don't think we're able to talk about those things. Okay, this is a family-friendly channel. Whack.
Right. Envisionable
No
asks,
idea what freebasing is.
what would the first chapter of Stu's book be
You can with
called?
Twitch Prime.
Oh, probably. Who is Stu Flanagan?
God.
The big picture, you know, those cheesy pictures that you see on the back of books. It would just take up the entire page in this grandiose,
horrible headshot.
What's the first book of the Bible?
Genesis. The Genesis of Flanagan.
Flanagan Genesis.
In the beginning, there was the spandex. The spandex was with Flanagan, and the spandex was Flanagan.
Stu Flanagan story. Oh yes.
God.
The doctor looked at her and said, "Let there be boy."
Yeah. It would be just a chapter filled with a heroic tale of Stu Flanagan, a story completely exaggerated beyond like proportions. You know, when you're like filling out like a job application and you I managed money at a multi-million-dollar blah blah blah, and you're like the cashier at like a McDonald's. That's what Flanagan would put down. He would absolutely, like, I drove extremely expensive space cars, like, because he used to be a valet. It was like
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He would do stuff like that to just try to like build up this story, this legacy, like
Stu's version
a
of
hero's
the book, right, must have him doing all of the good shit.
Yeah.
Like all of our hero moments that we had, like when Wyatt did the jump to go back and get the other squad and bring them to the ship. In the book, it's Stu that did it. Right? there's like this in the scene, like Wyatt's like on the ground, like, I can't do it, and Stu's like, don't worry, I'll take your morning cloak, and he gets in it and he goes and saves, and the big, like, everyone's like, huzzah, you saved the A squad or whatever.
Not just the A squad, but this group of helpless puppies that happen to be on the ship as well.
Everyone, all the girls are all like kind of like posed around him for the artwork. Yeah, I want to read that book.
Sooty, our wonderful comic book style ZBO provider and artist, asks, how is it using a system that was so new and still being refined? I'll let all of you answer this first.
I actually really enjoyed it, but
I did as well.
But I do think it was extremely confusing for us a lot of the times, and I don't know how well that translated to a show, you know, because there's obviously issues with pacing and making sure that it keeps going and whatever. But as a system, I actually really enjoy Lancer. I enjoy the mix and match stuff. Leveling up was genuinely really fun every time. I really enjoyed like kind of figuring, it's like building a Lego mech. You know, you're like, oh, do I take that or do I take that? And I could enhance this thing, or I could, you know, do this. And trying to build the mech that you want is extremely fun. And I think if you're playing a very combat heavy campaign, then Lancer would be absolutely awesome for it.
I don't think I leveled up the last level. I think I'm still at a license.
One.
Yeah, whoops. That could have gone different. Oh well.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
That was a pretty good answer though, really, for the question.
Whoopsie. I really enjoyed it. I thought I really enjoyed the system. Combat was long, but I think when it comes to all of us as players, I think we had a pretty good grip on what to do. I have horrible ADD, and I would have just tuned out if it was not great. And I think like we all did wonderful for keeping us all interested and invested in these long combats. But it was I actually really enjoyed it. I think I'm excited to try it out again. But yeah, there is some sort of length and some sort of fat that can be trimmed off of some of the combat length, but that just comes with all of the mechanics and all of the moving parts.
Keep in mind too, we also role played through the combat.
Yeah, exactly. That's also helped me too. Yeah,
that easily doubled the time for the combat, at least. Systems like Warhammer or what the heck is that other one? That's really similar to Warhammer. War Machine. They have these like really strategic sort of elements, and it's sort of like it's mostly like a strategy game, like a strategy dice game. And
game.
I think like BattleTech and Lancer, I think are really sort of focused on that kind of thing too, right? Like it's heavy strategy. Honestly, there's a lot more to the system than was used on this show. I have to economize a lot of things. There's stuff that happens with reinforcements that I didn't really do much with because I wanted to keep the combat shorter. There was times, I think when we did the bugs, I'm trying to remember in the beginning, was that 4 episodes of combat in a row?
Oh,
it was like 3 or 4. It was a lot.
Like 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Ideally, I kind of want to keep it like 2 episodes of combat at the most in a row.
Yeah, if you have to, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot. So for me, it's tough to use a system like this for a show. And that's something to think about whenever you're choosing a system in general. Whenever you're choosing a system, figure out what it is you're using it for. If you're playing at home, is your group like really into the role play? You should pick a system that works for your group and you. If you're not into the role play and you really like the combat and you really like the strategy, this is perfect for you. You'd love this. It's super good. I highly recommend it. And I have to also comment that the pilot.net people are insane. Like, they are amazing in how much focus they put into like tools to use for the system. CompCon is, you need
Saves
it.
the show.
Yeah. You need it.
CompCon saved the show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a lot. Yeah.
I remember before we started using it like maybe like 5 episodes in.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Yeah, second
like
license.
That. Yeah. Before that, everybody was just kind of stumped as to what they were supposed to do. How do I level up? What's a license level? What do I get? What, there were a lot of those questions, and I was like, listen, let's just all use this program and just do it like this. I said, it's really easy, and everybody's probably like, it's an executable file. I don't, it was kind of like there's some hesitance there. I was like, no. I was like, this will just do everything. It'll just lead you right through everything when you want to go to the next level. And it really simplified everything for the group.
Yeah.
So
it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
it was
it was
like
great.
my brain was scattered to the 4 winds when trying to do it. CompCon made everything so simple. And
also,
now I fully understand how to.
Yeah. What goes in?
We know. We saw all those guns.
Yeah, you were killing it. It was awesome.
We did. If we all took the same mech as him, there's nothing that we wouldn't have been able to destroy.
You and Jay, like, we did bug episode, and then Jay came in with like an amazing, just like, I do this, and the same thing. Like, we did bug episode, and then after that, Fizz came in with like his mech and just destroyed everything. And I was like, okay, they have it. They know what's going on. It was awesome.
there was also the fact that we were using the system for most of the show when it was in its public release. So it wasn't really formatted in the book. It was pretty tough to use, I'll be honest. And they released like an updated version, and they kind of added a bazillion bookmarks into the PDF, and it was super hard for me to navigate because it wasn't like they didn't have like roots for all of the bookmarks. Like it didn't have like subdivisions to kind of like go in, like I want to look at combat, and then from combat I want to go here, and they didn't have an index. Very, very difficult for me to multitask while the show was going on. I was probably I've damaged my brain permanently from that. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, Noodle asks, is there anyone that Wyatt didn't hate?
Elisa. I didn't hate any of them really. I didn't really hate anyone in it. Even at the end, I didn't have a side as Wyatt. Wyatt didn't care about Union or the Alnic or anything. He didn't give a fuck who won that war. He didn't care if Alnic invaded Cradle and wiped everyone out. He cared about these people by the end of it, but he didn't necessarily go in there and hate them either. He was just very antisocial. And because do you remember when we had the things? What were they at the beginning that they removed from the game that were we were giving points to at the end, or shifting and changing? What
were they called? They were basically like almost like motivations for your character.
They were like triggers, but not.
Yeah, I can't remember what they were called.
What are they called? I forget now.
I want to say it started with an I.
Yeah, we had those at the beginning. One of them for me was antisocial, and it was really, that was just the element of Wyatt that I can play very well, method act. Because it's not that he's antisocial in a quiet, reserved way. He's just spiky in a sort of self-defense mechanism-y way. Yeah, I didn't really hate any of them, honestly. I don't think even Heath and stuff. It was just that the way that because they seemed like they didn't get along, kind of. But I think Wyatt kind of respected Heath, and also Heath came in and was kind of Heath's kind of a fuck up. Like he shows up and he's like drinking and he's like, I don't even give a shit if I die. Yeah, my ass. But he's also he was also a little bit like what Wyatt had aspired to become, kinda. That was like he saw this person who was like, I'm a cool dude mercenary who's trained in all this stuff and I can just whip up an assault rifle and take people out and stuff. But then he also looked at him and Heath was just fucked up and just PTSD and all broken and bitter from it. That was another interesting thing. So it further inspired me to be even more spiky with Heath, because Wyatt wouldn't admit to himself that that's what he wants to be, and the reality is that war and all this stuff would reduce you to Heath, right? It doesn't actually make you into fucking like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator. You know, you become what Heath was. There's a lot to war that can leave you in a very broken state, but Wyatt wouldn't admit that to himself. So this guy comes in who's more than likely Wyatt's future self, you know, and he's like, fuck that guy. So that was kind of how it was, but I didn't really hate any of them. Elisa was the first one that I chose not to hate directly, though, because she was so very similar to me in the antisocial way. And when she came in and everyone was like, hey, we're on a team, and Luke was like, hello, I'm nice, big Luke, friendly cuddles, and Effie was like, I'm so innocent, and Stu was like, hey everyone, I'm cool, I'm a superstar, you know. And then there was Elisa who was just like, fuck off, you know, like, I hate all of you. And Wyatt was like, oh, that one's like me. So he kind of that was where Wyatt's interest in her came from originally as well. But no, I don't think Wyatt really hated anyone. Even like Kaz and stuff, I don't think he, you know, didn't even hate those sorts of people. He just saw them like
has an innate skill of character motivation and identifying it. Is that what it is? Like, they're not so bad. Kaz isn't that bad, honestly.
I don't know. Just like, I guess he didn't have the he just didn't care. He doesn't care about, like, when we went into the office with Wrath, was it me and Stu that went into the office with Raph, and we were like, we just
Oh, yeah.
wandered in, and I put my feet up on his desk and stuff in a very, anti-authoritarian way. And it was scary because this guy is scary, and I played it scary like that. But even then, I was playing Wyatt as not really too bothered about all these lines that people draw. All these invisible made-up lines that they cut up the universe with, and America is here on the rock. Like, oh, is it, or do you just make that up? That's kind of how I think and how
Made it
Wyatt
up with our
thought as well.
guns.
Yeah.
We did.
So, and by the end of that, I really solidified it into Wyatt's personality for the last few episodes. But whatever.
Commander Strax asks, the episode where Boomslang and his brother caused everything to get effed up, did you anticipate that? Or did the level of escalation catch even you by a little bit of surprise?
No fucking way anyone expected that, right?
Yeah. No, there's
Which episode? Because I feel like there's a lot of those where Wyatt and his brother effed up the episode.
Are you referring, Commander Strax, specifically to the episode right after the Blance over, where...
Yeah,
The
Luca.
episode?
Absolutely.
The episode, that's the
Yes,
one.
okay.
Absolutely.
They blamed Wyatt for that for some fucking reason.
I'd love it if Whack turned around like a Google Doc and was like, it was all planned, like get it down to the minute. It's exactly how I
No,
wanted
because
it
I
to
think
go.
Whack was
Played
going to
5
move us
beaches.
beyond that. And we all were like,
No way
no.
Whack had a plan to do it that way.
I did not plan to do it that way
Yeah,
at
we
all.
didn't plan it. Yeah.
So I will say that I planned it. I'm not going to say specifically what I planned because it didn't happen, and I think it would ruin too much if I did. I will say that the version that I planned in my head was a little bit like annoying, like the kind of the way that they were going, and they'd start some shit and it wouldn't have escalated to that point, but it'd be like maybe they get thrown in the brig or something along those lines. That was kind of what I had imagined happening. So even I didn't really expect it to go that far. And then I when the episode was going on, I was like, I need to make this even worse. I was like, let's make this even worse. And I just kind of rolled with it. And it changed the whole story. It changed the whole end. Everything.
It was the third act. Immediately was a third act.
Yeah. Everything was way different. I had really planned on focusing on each individual character and giving them their own story arc. And I had to change it. Naomi Stir asks, how close did the fan art ZBO received match your visions of the characters?
I loved every single one.
Same.
It's perfect.
I'm like,
fan art is
fan art for
absolutely
this was
wonderful.
Fan art's
so
the best.
legit.
Amazing.
It's crazy as well because we got such great art commissioned at the beginning, and Wank did the art for a couple of other characters as well. But we already had like really well established character art, kinda. I don't know if that's maybe what inspired some of the artists to do it. They have a more hard coded vision in their head to draw. I can't draw for shit really, but my god, the fan art in this was so good.
It was so good. And every time
Good
something
even
new
main
would
chat.
come up, we would all share it in the group chat. We'd be like, oh, there's something new. Everybody come look.
Fan art is the best. If you want to know
Yeah.
like the way to the heart of the players on a show, you make fan art for them. Like it's always the best.
Yes.
We've freaked out quite a bit.
It doesn't even matter if you're like a professional artist. Like we don't care. Like it's always awesome.
I think the last one, I think it was Sooty did of just that last episode. I'm just amazed because they did it during the episode.
Yeah.
Where I said like Heath was like, I'm tidying my mech, but I know I'm saying goodbye as much as anything else. And then like 10 minutes later, there's like, here's an amazing drawing of like Heath, and then like the caption of like, goodbye my friend or something. And I saw it, and I literally did. If you're watching Sooty, I literally went, oh. That was how I reacted to it. It's like, okay, that's my feelings. Thank you.
Young at Heart asks, Table Story fans are very active in chat and in Discord for Whack and the entire cast. At any time during the campaign, was there any time when something said in chat or in Discord influenced your character or how the campaign played out?
No.
No, I don't listen to the filthy peasants in Discord either. They aren't, excellent wellsprings of character, motivation, and no, I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know if I did or I didn't. I know that I do for a lot of my own campaigns that I run. I go in there and I'm like, thanks. Just write some stuff down, but I can't remember any specific things happening that made me.
Right, I can't remember anything specific. I think there was one time where I was like, that's a good idea. And it was from chat. It wasn't from Discord. And I don't remember when it was, though.
So what Myth is saying is, fuck the Discord. That was the subtext.
Yeah, that's it.
I usually go in and I will check to see if I am portraying the character the way I'm hoping to do. So sometimes I'll look if people are saying like, oh, I think somebody got Gabriella pretty early on, like where she came from because of the cat reference in the apartment. And they're like, back in episode 2, she had this memory of an apartment with a cat and they grabbed that. So that was pretty cool. I like it when I can see that people watching the show have made connections that we have just kind of slipped in there to our
I think there
characters,
was like a lot of theory crafting around that, the identity thing, but we also didn't really know what was going on either. So there wasn't much that we could use to influence it. But other than that, the characters in this were I think they were just pretty self-explanatory. I don't recall having to think too much on like, where I will go from here. Obviously I did massively, but in the sense of like running into a dead end and being like, or seeing something that someone had said, because it's just, I think all of our characters were pretty straightforward because that was how the campaign was set up in the first place. Obviously until the shift there with all the mind wipe stuff, I think then our characters became very confusing and convoluted. What about you, Wack? Because I feel like this is not something that often influences me as a player, but always influences me as a GM. Seeing people write stuff or come up with theories or just spitball something at you that maybe you either haven't thought about. I find that I often patch loopholes and plot holes and stuff. Someone will be like, oh, yeah, that guy knows that guy. And I'm like, oh God, that guy from episode 2 was in there. Oh God, what have I done? I need to bring him back. Do you ever do anything like that? Because I feel like chat, Discord do that a lot for me, where I go, oh, that reminds me that guy was there.
So nothing. So I feel like no major story points or anything. But maybe something along the lines of what you said, like plot holes. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything super obvious, and I'm not coming up with anything. There were people that guessed what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jesus Christ. There's that moment like, why are you all so smart? Like, am I that obvious?
Wait a minute. Do you actually feel like, oh, am I that obvious? Or because I swell with pride. I'm like, yes, they did it. I'm like, yes, they figured
No, I don't swell with pride. No.
100% on Wax. I'm like, damn it, they guessed it.
I'm just like, fuck. Am I too obvious? Like, is it bad? Is it a bad story?
You're laying down all these like hints and stuff, and you know.
But this is why, Wack, I've started to put genuine red herrings into Dying Order. I put stuff in there that is bullshit purely now to try and confuse the people, because there's hundreds of people now that are just watching this going, so if I attach, because all you're doing is laying out truths, basically. You go, here's this, and this. So they go that, and that. And then they put it all together, and you're like, damn, I'm dumb. They smart, me dumb.
Yes, that's what's going through my head.
Yeah. That's why I've started throwing red herrings in, just false information that makes sense. Obviously, it isn't just some bullshit thing, but throw in something that might confuse people in my game's Discord. And I feel like you need to do this now.
One brain versus 200 plus brains. You don't understand what goes on in my head, though. There's a level of like confidence that's going on in my head where I'm just like, I'm gonna beat them all. Like, that's what's going on in my head.
But like, you're one person that's creating a story.
I know.
And then you've got like leagues of people working together to solve what you have done. So
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I still can do it.
Yeah. That's what's going on in my head all the time. All the time. Subconsciously, it's always there. Sales D asks, is Yeg okay? How is he doing?
Beautiful, beautiful Yeg.
Stupid, sexy Yeg.
How is he doing?
How is he? He hasn't called back.
You'll have to ask Domestic Dan. Yeg, I feel like on my end, Yeg got some very valuable information, and there's an entire deviation from the story that was going on this entire time. Okay, a very major part going off on the side.
Season 2 confirmed.
And you'll have to ask Dan how Yeg is. Jaguar asks, PB and J, both. I feel like we're betraying Brotato by doing that. But we'll do it anyway. Both your characters went through some form of DID, multiple personality. How did you find each of your characters different / similar in terms of how they both handled it?
I think we talked about this a little bit, but I
think the big one that sticks out for me is that Heath was very combative against Michael, whereas Effie and Gabrielle were much more collaborative.
And it's almost like Heath kind of was disgusted in this persona.
100%. Because they did, by putting Michael inside Heath, like I imagine it, like Heath experienced a little bit like locked in syndrome. Like he was still in there, saw everything that Michael did, heard everything he said. And from Heath's perspective, they just made him everything he didn't want to be, which was vulnerable and useless and just inept and no confidence. Like they stripped away an awful lot.
Yeah, it's literally you're not good enough in front of you. Like we're gonna lock you up in here because right now you're not good enough. So
so Heath hated Michael, and just wanted knew of course sat there, he knew Michael wasn't real as well. He's just like, give me my body back. What the fuck are you doing with my life?
I was wondering what would have happened had they had that conversation, because I feel like that would have been really destructive for Effie if you had been able to say with proof and they had that conversation like Michael was made up, because then she could explore the idea that maybe Gabriella was also made up. So,
oh god, that would have been a rabbit hole.
That would have been really, really rough. So I'm kind of glad we dodged that bullet.
Another question from Jaguar. Fist, how do you feel about Stu's evolution as a character? What surprised you about Stu by the end of the campaign?
Yeah, when I brought Stu in for the first time, he was absolutely a fake it till you make it. I drew a lot of inspiration from just like the I guess flex culture, is that what you call it? Just like everything is just about like image. You don't actually have to like have any proof behind it.
You had like 12 charm skills.
Yeah, Stu was like it because Stu grew up like in the movie industry, and like everybody's two-faced there. You don't really have any friends in that industry. When Stu was
I want to know what Stu's parents were like.
Yeah,
I haven't even thought that far into Stu's life.
What was Stu's relationship with everybody in the beginning? Was he thinking like everyone was going to act the way he did, or the way everybody did in Hollywood, or?
He didn't trust anyone, because like his entire life, he was just like raised not to trust anybody. Like in the industry, it's like everybody will only use you for personal gain, and you should only be looking out for numero uno, and that's yourself. And I think it was like further proven after the Blantz over that even his own ex-wife was in on this horrible prank.
What the fuck?
Devastated him after he had like a heart-to-heart with Honora. We cared for very much. Honora was Flanagan's manager and like helped, keep things organized for him. Granted, when Stu left for this thing, that was his decision. It was very selfish to kind of blow her off, but he didn't think it was going to be 2 years that he'd be away. But after having the heart-to-heart with his ex, and then finding out that she was with Blanson, his sworn enemy, and she was very aware of this fact, and then also played into a horrible prank that made him look like an idiot perfect way to destroy Stu, his ex-wife knew exactly what to do to like ruin Stu and just hit him where it hurt. So that, I mean, he was, after that, like, he knew, like, okay, well, screw these people in my life. Like, they will always see you as somebody that they can
manipulate.
they can toss aside and like they just use you. Well, look, when Stu looked back on, you know, his core group, all of his friends, he had a change of heart and like opened up and actually started to develop trust within the group, because he knew, like, through all of that, he could have been thrown under the bus by anybody in the group, but everybody stuck together as a team. So I guess what really came out of that experience in Mars is that Stu finally learned that he could trust, like finally knew what it was like to have real friends that wouldn't abandon him or use him, friends that would love him unconditionally and support him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
and he also went on to do something very real. Like he went on to do something that saved everyone, impacted everyone, and is the opposite of the falsehood.
So much of his life has been fake.
Yeah, he's been giving in to all this clout hunting and these fake numbers online and all that stuff. And then he went on to do something maybe no one will ever really know about it, whether they read his book and believe it and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But he went on to do something that had an extremely important and real impact. So it's kind of interesting as well.
It also shined through during the memory wipe right after too. It's because you were still Flanagan, who is still trusting this group of people, though he's having a very hard time figuring out why. There was still in the subconscious he had to, which was super cool. Yeah. So it still kind of showed the character and growth that he made on Mars.
Yeah, and touching back on what Brad said, I think it was cool that Stu was achieving all of these great things, like finally doing something real, but he was doing with friends that he genuinely cared about.
Yeah,
like versus like he works on like a big movie. If he had gotten that big movie with Blanson and Bernie from Burning Winds, it wouldn't have been. I think Stu would have really felt like it wasn't worth it. Like getting getting what he wanted, but not sharing it with the people that he cared about, because who knows when like Bernie would throw him under the bus or Blanson would throw him under the bus. Like, you know, genuinely doing something real with people he really cared about, I think also had a big impact.
It's like the real fulfillment of it, as opposed to the false fulfillment of what you think is what you're after. These Hollywood stars or whatever.
Envisionable hit the nail on the head. And Captain Shiro as well. Stu should go on to create his own line of spandex clothing. Envisionable says Flandex.
Flandex, that's amazing.
Yep.
Do you think, and obviously we're not saying that this is canon or anything, because I think none of us have spoken to each other about what we think happened after, but if they did go somewhere together, do you think they stayed together?
I don't think they have a choice. The thing with the ending is, realistically, they're still on the run, probably forever. You know? Like, we're wanted by both the Union and the Outnick, pretty much. Regardless of what we came out of that looking like or with.
Yeah.
You know? We still had to... Like, we wouldn't... I don't think we would have ever had the happy ending of everyone goes to Earth and settles down and buys a little house and chills out.
Yeah.
I think we're still kind of on the run. I think we probably turned into the mercenary crew.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Likely. Yeah.
Like I saw them kind of on a ship together and, you know, just on the run, but space is vast, so I imagine they could kind of get away. And
season 2 would be
way through, you know,
Firefly.
Benefactor is Dr. Zephyr paying mercenaries to keep the heat off his back so he can continue doing this firmament work, and I have to publish my licensing for all of this theory.
Yeah.
I need you to keep me secure. Yeah, that'd be
you know, Stu's like starring in his own mini docu-series that we're doing together just for fun. Like, yeah.
I just imagine you guys trying to hide and Stu is doing like a vlog.
Hey guys, it's me. So we're right now we're trying.
Been a rough day today, guys. First we
None of us
evaded
knew.
some patrols, you know, and
No one on the fucking ship knows why they keep tracking us. Like we're like why it's like landing on a thing, and he's like, "Wait, we got bogies coming in. Like they found us after a day. How are they doing that?" We lift off and shoot. Like, well, where's the upload speed, dude? What's going on with the upload? He's in there uploading videos to YouTube, space YouTube.
Oh God.
Land X Nation, great to see you guys. I got some bad news.
Obviously, none of us are subscribed to it, so we're not watching it. We have no idea. God damn it!
I think I might have accidentally knocked the wire out of my.
how dare you?
No.
Hold on a
dare you.
second.
Blandex out.
Squizbot7 asks, has Tivius dodged the firing squad?
Thanks.
Yes.
I'm
did.
not going
I
to
definitely
answer that
saved him.
question. I'm not going to answer that question.
Yes, he did.
PB.
We saved him. Sorry.
Actually,
Perfect.
I'll wait, and once Fisk gets back, I'll just have the two of you turn off
There
your
we go.
cameras.
Oh,
Sorry
sure.
about that.
We have no camera from you on Zoom.
There we
Jay-
go.
Jay, can you turn off yours?
It was actually
Now?
just Fist being very clever and making sure that he got the words "Fist of the Walrus" as advertising come up on the screen.
You know what? I should go. That
You gotta
reminds
worry
me.
about that, branding. Jay, you can come back.
I changed mine to Septimismatic.
Mal Hayato asks, with Wyatt giving a hug to Effie to reassure her of her identity, does this mean he is over Elisa?
No,
Yeah,
not
but
at all.
Effie isn't.
Accuse.
No, I don't think Wyatt had any like romantic feelings towards Effie. I don't know if that was how it was
What
perceived
about
or
Effie?
whatever, but
I don't know.
No. So I totally got permission from Colo to talk about this. But Colo and I were role playing the romance between Effie and Elisa before she left.
I thought that might have been what was going on there as well.
Yeah.
I didn't the hug was more just the fact that I was playing this version of Wyatt that had kind of come to peace with his own place and his own insecurities and things, and was just trying to better himself. And he also saw one of his friends in need, just because, like, you know, Stu's got all the guns maybe, but sometimes people need a hug. You know, it's not about just defending people with a fucking shield and sword. Sometimes you just got to defend people, and Wyatt was very conscious of it because he was there when Effie was convinced to come back, right? And so he felt slightly responsible for making sure that she felt safe and secure and okay in being back and out, and all of this stuff then started to pile on top of that for Effie as well. And I think Wyatt could see that because I feel like he felt like he had just come out of it as well. Obviously everyone did, but Wyatt was one of the last ones as well. So yeah, I was just playing him like he was just trying to make sure that he was being very reassuring to his friend. And the one of the things that I was really carrying through to the end there was the idea that you aren't you know, you become who you want to become, basically. And it didn't matter where we all came from, you know, at the end of this show and our journey here, those people that we wanted to be, I think most of us had become to a degree. And I think Effie was still struggling with it.
Yeah.
But for Wyatt, he only knew Effie. He doesn't give a fuck that she's Red Star. He didn't give a fuck that there are all these other, you know, personalities that might be in there. He's only ever known Effie, and that was the person that he loved as a sister or friend, and wanted to just reassure her that Effie was enough of a person for him to feel, you know, she doesn't need to feel like she needs to, you know, recede into herself like she was doing, kind of thing. So I think that was really all I was trying to play it as. Wyatt just trying to make sure that he was not just protecting people with, you know, jumping into the mech and flying out, but also making sure that everyone was okay, you know, as in their heads and stuff.
That was a really incredibly powerful moment as PB the player watching Brad and what he did with Wyatt, but also just for Effie. But because if you all remember in the beginning of the series, Wyatt was very much like, who the fuck cares about regular people? We all have superpowers. Like anybody who's not a superhuman is discarded and useless. So for Wyatt to stand there and be like, doesn't matter about any of that other stuff, like you're enough right here as you are, was really, really, and it was really nice. I liked that moment. It was a really good moment.
I was also told to give you a hug.
Oh.
In the firmament by our friend. Go back and watch the episode. Love how you're all confused by that. Okay.
Well, all right. Okay. Well, I gotta go.
Oh no! I'm sorry.
it was
Elisa.
Yeah, it was Elisa. Yeah.
So that was the other motivation, I guess, technically.
Targrad asks Brad on the backstory episode for Luca, how much did you laugh when giving him the bomb at the end, and had you planned that from when you said he would need something?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes in my head,
I also
I'm like,
knew that was going to happen.
Man.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, I have the perfect punchline here. Because it's hard when you're a player and you're one of an ensemble and the GM is in control of the story to try and facilitate something you know will be a good payoff. And I was like, please just allow for this to be facilitated in some way, and it worked out, and it was 100%. I was sat there just. You can probably watch. I probably look nervous because of how much I desperately wanted to make sure that was like the thing I wanted to do. It was so good. Yeah, 100%. Loved it.
Yeah, Bongo's the star of his own series, I think.
Oh my god!
Somehow still alive.
He's logging from Scorpa. He willingly loves Scorpa.
I know. He's staying. I'll be fine.
Oh god.
Captain Shiro asks, will Stu hook up with a certain handsome anime character in the aftermath?
Certain? Is that implying...
Yeah.
You know? You know, it's a good question. I haven't gotten the call back, so I don't think Stu... I don't think Stu's looking, and to be honest, I think actually going back from like Mars, like learning like you need to trust people and not, take it from face value. He's learned a valuable lesson also in that realm. So could be possible. But things would go a little different, I believe, than what old Stu would do.
All right, fair enough. Luja Dex asks, if you knew what you know now, system or RP, would you do anything differently or change a single outcome?
I had a thought during the show where it was extremely combat heavy and we were all struggling to kind of make that work in a show space. That was like, I wonder if you could just sit down and run combat offline, and then when you go online, you just role play out the roles you all did. I was like, that might be a way to make that interesting and make that happen. So we're still rolling. It's still combat that's happening, but we're not sitting there pausing and asking them questions. It's like playing a game of chess offline, and then we role play that out and then do the other role play improv. But I don't know if I would necessarily do that or change that. It's just a thought that I had, because I do frequently try to. Yeah, I know, right? Like, how would you do that? But I do try to think of ways in which could, refine the process and do stuff that might not be done yet on, streaming games like this. I do think about stuff like that. So, but other than that, no, I don't think there was anything.
Not even saving Luca in some way?
Hell no.
No.
I don't think there was saving Luca. I think that would have happened either way.
The thing is, like, objectively, Luca dying was so pinnacle to the journey. It transformed the entire show on so many different levels that I definitely wouldn't change it, even though it was horrible.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing was horrible. I thought it was
great.
It lent to the story so much.
Yeah.
So much.
I was waiting for an opportunity. I couldn't decide, because Heath didn't actually blame Wyatt for it. As far as Heath was concerned, it was 100% Effie's fault. But he he, as much a prick as Heath was, I think he knew, because he didn't make too many comments. He didn't come up a lot about Luca. I think mainly when that episode happened where we all broke our personalities back out again. We were sort of trying to explain what happened. Even Heath didn't have the arsehole in him to blame Effie, because I think he knew it probably would have broken Effie a lot more than calling Wyatt a prick, which he'd done for the whole season, and making it Wyatt's issue. Yeah, that was one of the moments. Like, I could take this two ways. I could just call Wyatt a prick again, or I could like pin it on Effie and see if she just falls apart, because that would have broken her.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, like the blame thing was shifted around a lot, like in the show, and in Discord and in YouTube and stuff like that, like whose fault it was and stuff. I feel like there was like a decent amount of blame all over the place. Tivius was he handled it so terribly, considering he was in his position of power and authority. The way that the Union and the Second Committee do stuff is just fucking evil anyway. So like straight up, they're awful. Wyatt's just a fucking piece of shit and an antagonistic person, so he incited the kind of tension that led to it. Effie straight up just went in. Luca went in, like that was like, there's a lot of blame that could be shifted around. I feel like Stu and Heath are really the only ones who are relatively blameless. And maybe like some of the other scientists that were in the room and things, but I think there was a lot of stuff. Like everyone was trying to pin the blame on one person. I feel like I got a lot of the blame for that as Wyatt for being that way. But it'd
be interesting that Whack won't tell us the answer, but who in that room was UND and who in that room was Second Committee? Like this, like so Effie goes and just straight up grabs the soldier's gun.
Well,
is that
only
one
because it was
Second Committee order?
Yeah.
Or are they under UND?
That's
I can see
interesting.
Whack smirking.
well, that was like the whole thing. There is, I think, some of us, I don't think we understood how the level of how far they would go, that kind of thing. Like it didn't seem like it would be a situation where pushing them, or at least verbally pushing them like Wyatt was doing, would lead to that sort of a situation in any way.
Because it hadn't before, right? You have been having the like verbal confrontation with, Tivius all the way up until that point, and it never ended in somebody like getting shot or guns being pulled or anything like that. So I don't think that it's far for Wyatt to assume that that's just your relationship with your brother. But if Tivius really knew how bad it could have gotten, that they could have mind wiped them, then why would you instigate?
And I guess
knowing why it was going to be like that.
Tivius was, I think Tivius was guessing as well. I think Tivius didn't know, at least from what I can figure out from the end.
I will just interject one word: correct.
I don't think Tivius, because at the end we got a lot of information on what Tivius and the Alpha Squad knew, and they had just suspected a lot. And they were gearing up to prepare to look into it a little more and put their asses on the line. But up to then, they were just kind of playing it safe, I think. So it still seems strange to me the way Tivius being heavy-handed and like kicking the chair out from under Wyatt was absurd. Even if he was concerned and he was just trying to figure out a way to quickly silence Wyatt.
All he had to do was ask. All he had to do was ask Wyatt. And that's what kills me about that, is like, they're brothers. He knows how Wyatt's going to be. So it was strange to me that he didn't just sit down, because that's all they wanted. The conversation prior to was like, will you help us? We'll give you guys anything you want. And then the very next situation is like, you guys are soldiers and I'm going to like start screaming at you, and you're civilians and you've never been in this situation before, but now you are.
It was
very
crazy.
Normally, I don't really talk about, I don't like to talk about like what happened after and that kind of thing, but I will address this. So that's an excellent observation you made, PB, in that before there was a different sort of atmosphere, and then after it changed. That is because, and like Jay sort of interjected, that what people were Second Committee and what people were third committee. There was more of a second committee influence in that second meeting. And Tivius was starting to suspect that there was some second committee influence, which is why he took a hard stance on Wyatt, and Tivius fucked up. Tivius misjudged.
Yeah, Tivius was flawed as well. Just because they're an NPC doesn't mean they can't get things wrong or be flawed.
Exactly.
It's so much more interesting.
Yeah.
NPCs don't just have to be, I give you this information. I'm a vendor. I'm this, they can be people too. And
They're
I think a lot of people, if you go into a game and you're judging all of your NPCs as just that, and everything they give you is just straight up information, it might be a mistake. And that, I guess, is a somewhat of a mistake that we would have made there in just assuming that, Tivius is doing exactly the right thing to facilitate the story. That's metagaming, really. Which is a lot of GMing. You have to do that. It's kind of hard not to have those NPCs and still run the thing. But
something that was mentioned that no one has really talked about, but Tivius killed the admiral that was in that room because of what happened.
Yeah, that was the next thing that happened. Which is why
everything boiled, everything came to a head all at once. Tivius had these suspicions. He was trying to do what he thought in the moment would be the way that he could convince the second committee that he could possibly get these people into line, and he couldn't communicate everything that he wanted to communicate in the situation. So everything just fucking interacted with each other and got too fucked up to work.
It's one way to shut Wyatt up is to just embarrass him, kick the thing out from under him and embarrass him. It might have worked. There's definitely a version of Wyatt that would have been like, fuck this, and I had Wyatt, by the way, Wyatt's blame was on Tivius there. Pretty much up until the moment that he worked out that he'd killed the admiral straight after that incident had happened. Because I accidentally blinked over to the room he was in to get that information afterwards. So up until then, Wyatt was pretty confused with Tivius because he pretty much blamed himself, even though out of character I don't really blame Wyatt, but in character Wyatt totally blamed himself for Luca entirely. But also had a lot of blame pinned on Tivius for that situation until that moment, I think.
I had the same thought. PB thought it was Tivius either that he just got caught up in the rivalry of his brother in a moment and kind of lost what he was supposed to be doing. Or I did kind of think maybe he did it on purpose, knowing why it would escalate decisions so he could see who was on what side in that moment. And we just got a casualty. By mistake, and then but Effie blamed herself 100%. So yes, if Heath had blamed Effie, she would have just been crushed.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a supercharged episode emotionally and everything. It was wild. I was fucking frustrated in the real world. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, that was crazy, and then we end the episode and I'm like, I'm gonna get some dinner. I held on to it for a bit. I was frustrated and confused. I didn't know what was going on. Couldn't work it out. It was really hard to get my head around for a little while. I still think it was absolutely should have gone. I'm happy it happened. At the time I was scared and confused, in and out of character, and just I had no idea what was going on or what had happened. And
Brad was pretty upset. I mean, because he was I think you messaged me too, I'm so sorry if I just fucked up everything that you were going to do.
I always feel like I ruin campaigns and I get really worried that I role-played in, because you were just trying, I saw it as out of character. I saw Whack trying to give me a quest. He just had an NPC being like, I'm an admiral and I'm here to give you this quest. And I was like, well, in character, Wyatt hates you the most. You're in charge. He hates you the most out of everything. He's an authority figure telling him what to do. I was like, man, I feel myself going, I have to say this in character now. Fuck you. And I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. I feel myself doing it, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I should even commit to character in these moments, or if I should just let Whack give us the fucking quest and then move on and be like, I probably wouldn't, you know, really Wyatt probably wouldn't have let that fucking guy swan in and be like, you're all in the military, go fucking wash the floor with a toothbrush, you know. And Wyatt's like, yeah, okay.
You said yes to the quest, it would have been a completely different show.
Completely different.
I agree. It would have been totally different.
But also I do feel, you know, response, because sometimes I'm like, Wyatt just wants to fucking give us a quest and move on to the next thing, you know. I don't know, sometimes it's a way of it.
The episode was supposed to be emotionally charged. I had just like a fucked up plan. Like after the glance over, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fuck with him now. I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, we did an arc for Stu, you know, and I had planned. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and get an arc for every character, into the show, and I had a different plan for the way that things were going to go, which I won't talk about. But it was supposed to be like a much less intense version of what was happening originally. And I don't think of it as a quest, really. It was kind of just a different plan. I don't know that the show would have stayed in the same way. I did want to change things up a little bit. I had intended to have the glance over be like super funny, and then something was gonna hit you guys. Like that was my intention when I came up. As soon as I thought up the glance over, I was like, number one, this is gonna be fucking hilarious. I wanted to do Weekend at Bernie's so bad. I was praying so hard that you guys were gonna take Bernie and try and go on a fucking adventure. I was like, please, please make this Weekend at Bernie's. I was praying so hard. I was like, please just take him from the fucking bathroom and go and bring him to the fucking movie studio and just have fucking hijinks ensue. I was so ready for that. And it let me down. You all let me down completely.
So he killed Luca.
I was all for it.
So I killed Luca.
That was it. It's fair.
You didn't think that trying to convince Blanson that he killed Bernie was
Oh man, it was twisted.
In that moment, I was like, I didn't expect it to get this dark.
Yeah.
Naomi's
great.
And then it got so much darker.
And then it got darker.
Yeah.
For Whack, what NPCs did you least expect to make as big of an impact on the story as they did? I feel like none of them. I kind of feel like the other way around, asking that question is probably better. Like, which NPCs did I expect to make a big impact and they didn't? It's probably Polly was supposed to have way bigger impact on things than she did.
Hey, Polly.
And then Skip was definitely supposed to make more of an impact. Polly and the Polly and Skip duo were supposed to be like way more important. And
you know who wasn't in it much? Prism.
Yeah.
Well,
honestly, Prism
I talked
considering
about
he's the guy.
Yeah, I talked about this previously, but I had changed that. Kaz and Dr. Prism were supposed to be more involved, but I decided I was more interested in what you guys were doing with your characters, so I do
think I feel like I've spoken way too much, but I will say that I think one thing about this that really stood out to me is that every NPC that you did present to us had a fucking good reason to be there and impacted perfectly. Like there were no like throwaway NPCs, no fuck around things. You know, I mean, I'm sure there were little side element like yes sir, and then they walk off. But every one of your main NPCs, when they were presented to us, had a reason and put us somewhere, you know, not necessarily just being like a quest giver like I was saying before, but they did something. They all had an impact on us or the story in such a way that that none of them are really forgettable. Like they all were there for a reason. They served a purpose, whether it was the purpose they were intended for or not. So yeah,
Can I just make a
good,
GM comment there? Because I know there are a
yeah.
lot of people that that's because Whack played it. All of his NPCs reacting to what the players were doing, and a lot of GMs will have your NPCs like either deliver and doing something and acting, but they're not really truly reacting to what the players have done or
so great.
said.
They feel like real characters, just like we're sitting here on these characters that we've played for weeks on weeks, and Whack presents us with one that feels like the same thing. Like they come in and they go, "Oh, I am this person. I'm real. You know, I am Estefania. I am the Red Star. You know, this is the AI thing. You know, like you're like, what the fuck? They seem very real, but every one of them was important as well, which is pretty impressive.
Thank you. I enjoy playing. I mean, you know me. You know I like playing a variety of different kind of characters and whatnot. I have a lot of fun doing it. That's honestly one of the most enjoyable things for me as a GM is just coming up with NPCs that fit in the situations. I build a lot of them off of what you are doing. You know, I am very reactionary with the NPCs. I'll come up with general ideas and just see how I can fit them in based on what you do so that it feels natural. I feel like a lot of times that's what I spend a lot of prep time on, is just thinking about those things.
Yeah.
Because again, I was really trying to make your characters the focus, and I wanted to enhance your characters with the NPCs. Like the NPCs were tools to enhance your characters. That's a better way to say it. Commander Strax, did they really kill the Blue Orion? If yes, how is the firmament still existing? Great question. I'm not answering. Commander Strax, to everyone, what question would you have expected or hoped to come up because you would have wanted to talk about that, but it was not asked?
How big is
What
mine?
a great question.
Ask me. Oh, I'm kidding.
But seriously.
I don't really have any questions that I hoped or wanted to answer. Whatever.
Were there any?
I'll say something. Why not? There's only two bits that I wanted to say. One is who was the inspiration for Heath? Because Heath, I will say this to Wag, changed the second he came out of the tube from who I was going to play. Literally. Heath was supposed to be like from the A Team. Howling Mad Murdoch was the inspiration for Heath, but he very quickly turned into a really asshole, grumpy version, vaguely violent prick version of Howling Mad Murdoch.
What changed him?
I just was responding to the
events,
input that Mike was giving me. Yeah, it's just the events, even like Howling Mad Murdoch. I wake up, my friends are being killed, there's some prick with a rifle, and it just kind of, it's like, I hate to use this term, but even like if I get a script for a game or something, we say, once you get a character up on its feet, it suddenly becomes something different immediately. And as soon as I was like Heath walking around, I was like, oh no, he's got more swagger and he's a bit grumpier and I can't be fucked with any of this.
It's because you were woken up mid-sleep.
That's it.
He's just on the wrong side of the bed. That's how you portray it. The whole entire thing is just him waking up from just this horrible, what is this? And just having that grumpy day.
Yeah.
How you presented Heath for that's really cool.
You know how you're told when you're little, like, don't make that face. It'll stay that way. That's what happens when you've got the serum. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed and it just stuck.
Yeah.
He also woke up with a tube hanging out of his.
Yeah, there was that. Which is what I will be remembered for till the end of time. So thanks for that. Because I think as well, like from what I'd seen of ZBO before, and then just diving in, like he was supposed to have like all these weird tics. Like I wanted him just to be like, all right, we've got to go down to the hangar bay. 2 pound of cheese. What? Like as a complete side effect of like that's what the serum had done to him. It just messed him up a little bit. So he was constantly, like, but then as the tone shifted slightly, I was like, that would have worked, but it would have been very different, and I think would have got quite tiring after 1 or 2 episodes of it. So I was like, let's bin that. So he completely was a fly by the seat of my pants, really, every episode. Just like, I didn't plan anything for him. I just went, well, let's just, I know what Heath is and what he does, so we'll just see what happens.
This was your first like tabletop role playing show that you've been. Was
This
it your first
one.
game as well?
Yeah. I've never played tabletop
Nice.
before Zero.
Really?
Good
So
job,
that was great
bud.
to go into Lancer.
Yeah.
That was super simple system for me.
Yeah,
There's
What?
nothing you can't play now, though.
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah,
I'm like an
I played
82-year-old.
Lancer.
What's roll 20? Okay. Well, that was good. And the only other thing I was going to say is because we had this discussion. I won't spoil too much, but it was an amusing after show discussion after the finale about Heath's, the end of Heath, question mark.
You
is-
should talk about that though.
Yeah.
What
I think you
the
should tell
complete
Tell.
misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So during, like, obviously the mech got decapitated, and as we think we all landed back in the firmament, I was messaging Whack at the same time, going, "Am I dead?" Like, because I wasn't quite sure. And I think there was like a slight pause where, like, I think Effie said, like, "Heath, can you get us home?" And there's just ever such a slight pause because I was like, I'm just waiting for Whack to answer. And Whack put, I'm trying to remember, it was like mech
Equals.
destroyed equals exclamation mark.
Oh no, yeah. So when you're GMing, especially a combat-heavy system, your brain
starts to go.
Your brain goes like. I would love to see a brain scan or something during a show.
Right.
I want to see one
That'd be
so
interesting.
bad
Yeah.
because they equated StarCraft 2 and StarCraft Brood War to be the equivalent of like taking the SATs every time you play.
Yeah.
I feel it's the same thing. Like your brain is just crazy. So I'm trying to manage and produce all these things, and I write in the Zoom chat like mech destroyed exclamation point equals death, which means does not mean dead. But Jay doesn't know that. I'm thinking in my head like he was in
code and stuff.
he's in IT. You know, he probably knows this, but like I'm not thinking that through. I'm trying to do like 12 other things. I'm like, the show's ending, like
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just went, that must be a typo. That's got to be equals. Because the immediate thing was, despite the fact I worked in IT, I didn't use that language, so I didn't even know anyway. I was like, oh, okay, that's got to be a typo because we're
But
going.
you don't have an Enigma machine hooked up with Zoom every week, just in case you need to pull something on the fly.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'll play it as dead.
That wasn't meant either. Yeah.
But I think what's
I
more
thought I had
interesting
fucked
is
up
where
there,
that could
too.
go. Is that all actually thinking about it, because all Heath knows is like my mech got hit and I woke up in the firmament. Like that doesn't like he could just then come back. Like all he knows is I'm in the firmament. He might think he's dead, but for all we know, he could wake up back in the real world with a hangover and just like, oh, for fuck's sake, I thought it was all over.
Weirdly, I really like the idea that Heath is canonically dead because Whack mistyped. So perfect.
How did you
He had
die
such a
by
death
typo?
wish.
By
Yeah.
typo,
Yeah. But I mean, that was
character
absolutely
commitment.
what Heath wanted. Like if the opportunity had come up, like I would have killed Heath in an instant in a sacrifice moment. It's the only thing he would have been
begging
happy
for
with,
it since
really.
we were drifting out in space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, he'd have been the Terminator thumb going down, going, you prick, as he like grabbed Kazmaro into the lava. Like that would have been fine. He'd have gone out like that. So he's kind of happy, I guess.
Lucas,
that was
stole
it.
your scene.
Yeah.
Yikes.
William Wall 512, would the crew break out Elisa in the future?
God, it's probably like
Why?
we had three missions.
Wow.
Rendezvous
What
with
the
Alpha
fuck?
Squad, collect Tivius and collect Elisa, and then Firefly, begins. I imagine.
I don't
I
know.
see
Did,
that as
did
season
Elisa
2,
say?
yeah.
Didn't she willingly be like, I have to go? Wasn't this? It was
She
all about.
willingly went, but
Yeah.
it was because she recognized that she was having mental health issues and she needed help.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't know if I would have. I don't know if.
But then we would pick her up and be like, "Hey, we're all the same.
We're all fucked up. Let's
We're all
go
fucked up
together.
now. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Let's go together.
Yeah, and then
Yay.
Quantum will be like, they are. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Hello.
We have
I don't know why we're here.
Hop in
now.
the car.
Doctor
We're
now.
going shopping.
Yeah.
We have a therapist on the ship. You'll be fine. Let's go.
That's not me. I don't actually. Okay. Well, hello.
Chill Panda Pandana asks, okay,
Bandana.
so I was really wondering, for the creation of the character Stu Rashman Flanagan, was it inspired by the character Zap Brannigan from Futurama?
Yes.
but also, Stu Flanagan is a role play character you've played before, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I made him 3 years ago. He was a role play on Arc, and I
Doing it now.
He's doing it right now.
And
Yes.
now I'm back to role playing on Arc.
//
Or the hashtag follow me. But yeah, I am
Fist
playing
of the Walrus. Go.
now. Yeah, he's I
good.
played him before as a captain, and I still am playing him as a captain of the Galactic Space Force, and he still
Can
has
you
like
imagine
a big
if he was a captain in Zero?
God no!
I know. It's so good.
The show would have been very
cowards!
It's so good. Season 2. I mean,
There kept being there's a couple of puns in this show that I kept wanting to come up, and I was waiting for a conversation between Flanagan and an NPC, where an NPC went something like, "Oh, I feel like a new man again," and he went, "No, it's Flanagan, not man again." I don't know why. I just was waiting for it.
That's a specific conversation.
Anticipatory puns with Jay Britton.
I said to Wack, in fact, I'm going to do it now because it's my last chance to do it. I said to Wack, I think the very first episode, like before we went live, there was a phrase I wanted Heath to somehow put in if I ever got to fire and do a really good attack, which is going to be, if you can't stand the Heath, get out of the kitchen.
Yes.
And I never got to do it. And I was so sad.
you were minimum.
Yes. Oh, that's so bad.
So I
bad.
don't remember
Oh,
that,
it's
and I feel
so
like
good.
there's a reason
You won't,
that I don't
'cause, yeah,
remember
you
that.
blacked
Blacked
such
right
a
out.
face.
Oh,
And I was like, oh,
God.
fuck. I've already pissed Wack off and I've not even started playing yet. He's going to kill me.
Accurate.
Ugh.
Accurate. Can we have one more Stu book quote thing, says Brad.
I was typing it really quickly because I knew you were about to go, well, that's the end. I was like, Can we have
man.
one more from the book just to close us out forever?
One
Yeah,
more
you know,
game.
I can actually pull it up. I would just write random.
So you have, how many quotes do you have in there, in this document, this PDF thing that you're going to publish?
I only have 5. I gotta get cracking.
You gotta get
I
cracking.
I was going to make like at least 20, so like at random points I could just pull it up and like have an excuse to use it. But like there weren't too many scenarios.
many were
where
made
I
up on the
could
spot?
do it. All of them.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say.
Nice.
Those are
The
great.
5 that he has written down are the
Yeah,
5
I've
he
never
made up
been
on the
used.
spot. Yeah.
Or all of I
love it.
literally cracked open my notepad and I was like, okay, I need to explain that he has a book, but I don't have any quotes and I need to start coming up with some stuff right now. So while the show was going on, I was like, this will work. And some of them are just like, yeah, number 69 is yes. And number 14 is WWFD. What would Flanagan do? It's just stuff.
Speaking of which, someone said, and I forgot to write it down, but somebody said that this round table should be 101 ways to bullshit your way through a Lancer campaign.
Oh
Yes.
my god.
That was definitely my
good.
thinking throughout the entire thing. Shadow the Wreck God, were Wyatt to ever roll triples at one point? Were there plans how to move forward with that, or would he just bloop out of the show? I had zero plans for that happening. I'll be completely
Also,
honest.
the rules changed for that mechanic halfway through. When we were given the original book, the rules were that my mech disappears and I just remain as a pilot. But then when they released the book, the rule was that you just straight up vanish until the end of the scene and then return. I can't remember if it's with or without the mech. So depending on when in the campaign it happened, yeah, it would have been very interesting.
Could you imagine getting blinked out of the campaign and then halfway through they patch it and you're like, fuck.
You get back in.
You just come back in. It's like, hey guys, what's up?
Hi, everyone.
Retcon.
But you're
I
old
really wanted
Wyatt.
it
You're
to
like
happen,
old
but I
Wyatt now.
didn't.
You blinked back and you're fucking like you've been through
Like
some
hero
shit.
from Heroes. Yeah.
I was
I am
so
Wyatt.
stuck on that move because it's like a free move. It's like it's so weird and broken and strangely worded that you can just
Every
use
single
it as
mech
much
had
as you
one of
want.
those.
But I
Yes.
from the role play perspective, I really wanted it to happen, but from the combat mechanic perspective, I really didn't. I was like, A, it's hard, and B, I'd just be out of the show for like 4 weeks. So I was like, I wasn't sure if I wanted it to happen. Like the chaotic part of me really, really wanted to vanish because it was just cool. But yeah, I was very concerned about it happening, and then I just was like, oh man, I don't know what the hell we do with that from the fact that I would just vanish for 12 weeks of combat.
Envisionable asks, who was each of your favorite characters? And then we'll wrap things up.
Wyatt, obviously, the fucking best one. You're talking about these guys suck.
I'm gonna say Luca. It's for one very selfish reason. I said this in chat earlier on in the stream. Yeah. The scene with Myth in space and Luca in space, where we jumped out the back of the thing, like genuinely for me, like professionally or personally, that is one of the most interesting scenes I've ever got to perform, and it was like genuine tears. It was fucking lovely. I loved it, and I'd be ever grateful for Tabletop giving me a chance to do that kind of improv. It was just fucking wonderful, and I just loved Luca as an arc, as a character, as that nice paradox of the absolute unit who will rip your arm. It's a Wookiee. Like I'll rip your arm off, but I'm also nice to cuddle. Like I loved it. So yeah, there we go. That's my stake in the ground.
Who's next?
I loved them all. I really did. If I had to pick one, Stu. Stu was my favorite character. Are you kidding me? It's too good.
I really liked Effie being the clone, and that was so cool. I know it didn't it through the plot and everything, weaving and mixing, but just I think that was just such a cool path and story and arc that we saw, and the journey that Effie took. Both PB and Effie took the entire time was just super cool, and PB adjusting everything on the fly was super awesome. But to also see Effie be conflicted with numerous characters, which were still the same character, was super cool to see and watch.
Yeah, that was pretty tough. This is yeah. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Fist, what about you?
I'm also with PB on this one. I loved everybody. I'm not also saying that I loved Stu, but no, I'm not. I think Stu is my favorite character. No, I liked Wyatt's character simply because he the cigarette bit always got me. Like I think the first one, like walking outside to like 125 degree weather to smoke a cigarette.
No matter what, yeah.
The dedication to just
skin is melting.
Smokers are like.
Any social, just like we're just meeting each other. It's like our third scene, and you're like, all right, I gotta get just I'm out
Get out of here.
Every 10 minutes on the dot, like you gotta go.
It set the scene so well. It was like, all right, well, I know how his character is now. It's like, yeah, I don't care. What did he say? So I just want.
It was so
to smoke a
frustrating not
cigarette.
having cigarettes at the end, right? Because I just didn't physically have any. And although I was using the cigarettes a little bit to show that Wyatt had changed, right? He didn't need to smoke anymore because he wasn't relying on anything as a crutch because he had his own internal strength to, stand upright or whatever. But also, I did kind of want to do this thing where as he became slightly more anxious and the edges began to fray, he would maybe pull out a cigarette. And it wasn't like he needed it like as a reliant thing. It was just an old habit kind of situation, but I didn't have it for the end. And also I bought these and didn't get to use them for multiple sessions at the end, like months. I just have these fake cigarettes now.
Wyatt's character arc was my favorite. That was a pleasure to watch. It was really, really good.
What about you, Jay?
Me?
Yeah. Said Luca?
Yeah, it's so tough because there's like little bits of every character that I just absolutely adore. Like,
when I think about it, it's
so tough. Like Stu's naivete as well. Like he's just like, he's like a child, but not a child. It's just like, yeah. And Brad, as much as Wyatt was a prick, he was a superb fucking character. I mean, the arc you took him on, bravo. Wyatt was just superb. Just such a full character, and seeing him go through that, I think he's probably the character out of all of them that changed the most from beginning to end.
I think definitely.
I think, and Effie as well. That just continued innocence, and just that can-do attitude all the way to the end. Even when like her world was kind of coming apart a little bit. But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I love all of them, but Luca will still have a little special cuddly, grapply place in my heart.
That was a really great scene, and thank you. And I echo everything you said. It was awesome. It was really wonderful and beautiful to role play with you, and to have that scene. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the parent thing as well, and just say all of the characters were fantastic overall in general. It was an absolute pleasure doing the show with everybody. And even though Kolo couldn't be here as well, I loved the way that she played Elisa. And playing that.
I wish we saw more of that. To be honest, that was
honestly
I was really invested.
Playing that, hated character, the bad guy, like the one that's always sort of perceived as the heel, is tough. That's a tough character to play. And Kolo did that on her first adventure into tabletop role-playing in a system that is extremely complicated. So we had 3 people on this show that it was their first time doing a tabletop role-playing game. And it was also one of the most complex that I've ever played. That's tough. That's double tough, okay? I give her a lot of props for doing that, and if you want to talk to Kolo about, because I did see the question. There was a question that asked like, why did Kolo leave? That's up for Kolo to answer. I don't feel like answering that when she's not here. I
fired her for being mean to Wyatt every week.
Yeah,
that was why.
I'm really upset.
I was
she said on stream before, that Harry Potter's made for her, and it was a matter of she gets to be in one or the other due to her schedule. So,
I'm really upset because I think Heath and Alyssa would have romanced. That was that.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have. I'd love to have RP'd that more because I think it was really fascinating.
Happened, yeah, right. Yeah, but it's still awesome. Yeah, that would have been really cool.
I think
it was great to have 2 characters where like Elisa was all about a lot of like very defensive, very aggressive, calling everyone out. But when she did it with Heath, because Heath is just an arsehole, he just went, "Yeah, no, you're right. I am an arsehole." I like
that.
and I got, come on.
Yeah.
It was nice to kind of see that, like reverse butting heads, like trying to butt heads and having nothing to go against. And I really enjoyed I only got a couple of scenes with Kolo, but that would have been really nice to kind of explore what Elisa would have done with someone who's like, "I'm not going to fight you. This is fine."
We also needed a hacker. We needed a hacker so much, and we didn't have one. Just in the team comp from the mechanics of the combat, it was like Luca killed all the bad guys at the end, and she hacked the AI thing. None of us actually saved the world.
Yeah,
none of the active members did anything. Like we just fucked around, and those 2 did the world universe saving thing. Which is actually really apt. I think it was kind of cool that they got a little nod because Elisa was such a great character. I was devastated to lose her because she was totally like my antidote character. I was like, oh fuck, I'm just unhinged now. You know, like unchained. Right. I'm just fucking. I don't have anyone to just hit me every week. And I was like, oh, what do I have no character arc now because I lost this. Like, we have the nice dad figure, and I was like, that's not going to work on Wyatt. You know, need like the mum with the rolling pin, bopping the head, which I lost, and I was very sad to lose Elisa as a character. Not so sad to lose Colo as a player though. She's terrible. You won't see her on this channel again.
Except tomorrow.
All right, Christian.
Joke.
Just a joke. Everything I say is a joke.
There was a question
it's the last
earlier.
episode. It's fine.
A question earlier about if we were to change one thing, system or RP or anything, what would it be? And I think it would be adding another webcam window to the overlay and having Elisa come back. Because that would have been really cool to see that all of that and how she would interact with
bending the real world
like
reality to have a version of Zibio that had both Heath and Elisa in it the whole time.
Yeah, also basically impossible with the system. trying to jam pack 7 people into this system.
Combat would have been
show.
so like an extra 2 episodes every time
for every single one. Yeah. It adds
or just play a character that does one thing and that's it. And that's either grappling or maybe moving people around. That was how I came up with that. I was like, this looks complicated.
That's what I did.
I'm just gonna push people.
Like, I'm gonna sniper. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
So that's gonna wrap things up for our wrap up. We're gonna do some shout outs and whatnot. But before we do that, I just want to give a big thank you to everyone that participated in this show. You are the reason that the show was so great, and I really appreciate how much effort you put into all of your characters, and it was really special. So thank you so much. Thank you, Myth. Thank you, Fist. Thank you, PB. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Brad. And thank you, Colo, because you did such an amazing job. And I looked forward to how your characters were going to react to every situation, and it was very exciting. And I also want to give a big shout out to chat and all of our supporters for just supporting the show like you did. You were super invested in everything, and we had some amazing fan art. I see you there, Sati. Thank you so much for all that fan art, and thank you for just being active and being invested. Thank you so much. Let's go around the room. Let's do some shout outs, and let's say our goodbyes. PB, could you start us off, please?
Sure, of course. I'm Pumpkinberry, and I played Efriella for you for this show. And you can find me at Twitch and Twitter at Pumpkinberry. I am also here on Wednesdays, GMing the new surreal thriller Gone. Brad's in that one. Myth's in that one as well. And a whole bunch of other really, really awesome role players. So you should come check that out. And then I'm here again on Sunday in Brad's show, Dying Order, where I play an old woman. And I love her a lot. You can come check that out as well. Thank you for having me, Wack, and thank you for telling such an amazing story. I'm very attached to ZBO.
Thank you. Myth?
Oh, boy. So I kept my outros and intros pretty brief throughout the series. But I'm not going to do that now because it's the last one. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this and telling the story with us. And thank you for having me a part of it. I say thank you, and thank you for trusting me with all this stuff a lot, because I am super nervous about it. I was super shy getting into this, super nervous to play with all of you and to hang and to be a part of this story, especially in a genre that I'm not really super familiar with, anime. So it was a challenge for me there, but also to just welcome me in with open arms to tell the story of Luca, and also Dr. Quanta Zephyr, Dr. Donovan Zephyr, was just really awesome. And you guys have been super supportive throughout this whole thing. And I thank you very, very much for having my back and lifting me up as a person and as a role player and as a cast member here on Table Story. So thank you for that. My name is Mythematic. I'm a roleplay streamer and voice actor here on Twitch. You can find me over on twitter.com/Mythematic, where you can see what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I usually stream Star Citizen once or twice a week. Over on my channel, I do a full cinematic RP experience. You can check that out. I also do a lot of, like I said, I'll do a lot of RP and things. I'm constantly playing make-believe. So if you like telling stories, check me out. Thank you very much. Once again, this is great. I can't wait for more shows with all of you. And I can't wait to tell stories again. So thank you. This is really wonderful.
Thank you, Myth. We're happy to have you join us. Jay?
It's GM Win. Sorry.
Hi. I got to follow that now. Thanks. I'm Jay Britton. You can find me on Twitch, Jay Britton. It's really easy. I'm currently dying a lot in Dark Souls 2. Come and watch me play with my face. That's always great fun.
Being attacked by exclamation point equals in Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's
now you know when you die in Dark Souls. That's the difference.
It's just all the time. You're always dead in Dark Souls. That's how the game goes. But my chat likes to wait until I'm on my 15th run on a boss and finally got it down to the 3rd health, and they redeem like a play with one hand or play with my eyes closed, because they're horrible people. So yeah, come to my channel and fuck with me. I'm just gonna be echoing the words of everyone, really. This was amazing. This was wonderful. It was a joy to get to play with everyone here, and I've become incredibly attached to Heath. He was just so much fun to play, and the characters in this world were all wonderful and magnificent. And yeah, similarly for my first table story show, and tabletop show for that matter, there was a little bit of, I'm coming to play with people I've watched for a while. This is slightly weird, but okay, let's give this a go. And I think it speaks a lot to the quality that Table Story puts out. Like, acting is my day job, and yet every half an hour before ZBO, there's like a little bit, okay, come on, Jay, do good. Be good, okay? Like, people expect goodness on this channel. So that, I think that says a lot about what Table Story does. So thank you for trusting me to come on. Thank you, chat, for enjoying Heath minimum damage Marker Brown. One day I'll punch a 3, and that's it from me. There you go. Ended on a pun.
What a segue.
Yeah.
Fist.
Hello, I'm Fist of the Walrus, and I played Stu Flanagan. And I'm very happy. About a year ago, Brad invited me to this, and usually I'm not too familiar with this sort of style of roleplay. I've done a lot of roleplay on just open world survival games like Ark and GTA, but I can safely say after this, I am better for having been on this show. And I'm very grateful to have met so many amazing role players and had a fantastic time being a part of the story and just getting to know the community and really getting a chance to broaden my horizons as far as tabletop RP goes, and say I'm sufficiently hooked to this style of RP. It's been an amazing experience. But speaking of open world survival games, currently I'm back on my Ark kick with Captain Flanagan, an iteration of Flanagan if he were to be in a position of power that would endanger people's lives. And yeah, that's a lot of interesting stuff going on over there. Other than that, I am pretty much just doing that for the most part. I really will miss this. I had a fantastic time. Thank you so much again for having me. And thank you guys for watching and supporting.
Thank you so much. And don't worry, Fist. We'll definitely have you back on for something else. Don't you worry. Somebody that we definitely won't have on for anything else, Brad.
Me?
That's a
Yeah, I spoke a bunch last week about how the show affected me on a personal level, to be honest. I feel like my character went through some things that I was able to draw from personally and kind of use to influence the role play that I did here. So it was really interesting to think about and be able to do that in a tabletop game, kind of. I know we all kind of do that a bit. Sometimes you're like, wow, I just went through a thing that I'm just thinking about today. It was strange to actively do that and kind of go, yeah, that's something that I've thought about before. But I don't think I would ever have considered it, I don't think, unless I was surrounded by people that were as good at what they do as you guys have all been. This cast is ridiculous. Sometimes you get a cast of people that just have such great synergy that it just bleeds through so effortlessly. You just don't even notice how well we're all working together until like the end, and you look back at it and go, wow, that was awesome. And sometimes you play in games and you're like, man, this is awful, which is all my games I run. Tune in on Sunday. And sometimes you really feel like you're a part of something. And I feel like, for me, I'm a weird person. I struggle to be sincere and to put my best version of me forward. And when I'm surrounded by people that really are this good, I feel like I have to step up. So I actually try, and I actively try. And I'm always kind of proud of myself when I do it a bit. And then we all build something really special, which I think this was. I feel like this really is one of those shows that I'll look back on and always think that was awesome, and I really felt that on so many levels. And it was just, I think, really just due to you guys being so good, and it makes me feel like I have to step up, and then I do so, and we all come together, and I'm not going to cry. Also, fuck you guys. No, it was special, and I feel like there's been a couple of shows that I've been on where I go, wow, that has changed me and made me want to be better, not just in roleplay, but just as a human being. And sometimes I feel like you get like really strong casts that really bring that out in me and maybe each other, I don't know. And this really felt like that for me. So I've really enjoyed it, and I think it came through the screen because people really became attached to these characters. And I think a lot of it is that. I think we all brought it, and it really was something that just naturally felt very strong. Yeah, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it. I know Wack's thing of like, no, I never do a season 2 and never push it and stuff. And I know I'm always on side with that mentality, yeah. But I keep making the joke about season 2 because deep down I think I'm like, just it's okay, Wack. We can just break that rule once.
One time, just one time.
Yeah, because sometimes you do have it, and you do have such a strong cast and such an interesting show. And yeah, it really was all thanks to me. So you're welcome, everybody.
I would like to point out it was actually thanks to Brad and PB that the show happened in the first place. We have a database of different systems and show ideas that we have. And to be fair, I came up with it, but I put it in there as a possibility. I'm like, oh, this Lancer system is about big mechs and things.
And then I just started screaming.
Yeah, and I always have a ton of different show ideas that are percolating. But Brad and PB were like, we need to do that one. And I was like, okay, let's do that one. I said, This system looks pretty tough. I'm all, okay, let's do it. That's kind of what happened.
And Lancer blew us up as well at the beginning, so thanks to the people at Lancer.
That was huge.
They really did support our show.
And just for being supportive and explaining the rules and coming by and like helping us. They were very, very helpful.
And quite a few people came from the Lancer community as well.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming over and enjoying it. I know it wasn't very rules heavy. I think a lot of people were coming to watch it to learn the rules, and then we were like, but Luca, I love him. And it was like, what the fuck? Shoot something! Shoot something in the mech! Yeah, it was, I don't know.
100% accurate. 100%
to have Lancer support the show,
I'm Wax Steven. Thank you. As I said before, thank you to everybody that participated, and thank you, chat, for being here. As always, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I really enjoyed this show a lot. Despite how difficult it was to run from a show standpoint, it heavily taxed me. After every single episode, I was annihilated. I was just... I feel like I still was recovering like the day after.
What you're saying is witchcraft and wizardry is about to blow up because you're not going to have anything that's stopping
if you were like, God, this witchcraft and wizardry show, Wax Steven doesn't put any effort into that. It's just going to get better. So, my brain...
Next week's episode of Witchcraft and Wizardry, they're going to be like, what the fuck? Why is this nominated for a real BAFTA? What has happened?
But yeah, it was definitely super challenging, but every week was look forward to because of these wonderful people. So thank you so much. And I have nothing else to say. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday, and you make sure that you follow all of these wonderful people. Please go follow them. They were fantastic. They were great role players. Make sure you follow Colo too, and go give them some monetary support if you can swing it. If you can't, then don't do that. If you want to help support Table Story, check out our Patreon, tablestory.tv/pledge for that. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow for Witchcraft and Wizardry. Peace out. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday. Goodbye, everybody.